Chapter 32-36. Book 1. Chapter 180. Zhao Fu's group of 3 was walking on a large street, planning to head to a nearby city and use a teleportation array. However, a group of people had set up a checkpoint on the main road. When Zhao Fu's group of 3 walked over, a young man shouted, "You 3, pay the toll." Hearing this, Zhao Fu did not mind and casually threw a bag of gold coins over. The group of people hadn't expected Zhao Fu to casually toss out a bag of gold coins. They revealed greedy smiles and surrounded Zhao Fu's group of 3. The youth smiled and said, "I suspect that you are related to the gold refiner race. Take everything out and let me check it. Otherwise, we'll treat you as a spy and kill you." Zhao Fu frowned slightly. "I advise you to take the money and to shut up," the young man said arrogantly and disdainfully. "We're from Mumming City. What, you still want to attack us?" Mumming City was the city that Zhao Fu and the others were heading towards. If they killed these people, they would most likely be barred from entering the city. The young man shouted, "Did you hear that? Hurry up and call it out." Zhao Fu's expression turned cold, and he was about to kill them. "What you guys doing?" A voluptuous, black-clothed woman rode over on a horse and asked. Seeing this black-clothed woman, those people's expressions fell, and the young man went up and bowed as he said, "Second madam, I feel that these 3 people are suspicious. I want to check them." Yu Shaoling snorted coldly. "You're looking for an excuse to make things difficult for us, because we have so much money on us, right?" The black-robed young woman glanced at the young man's group and immediately understood what was going on. She said coldly, "Let them go. Also, if they dare to do this again, I will kill all of you." Everyone said in fear, "Second madam, we don't dare to do it again." The black-robed young woman didn't say anything. She glanced at Zhao Fu's group of 3 before riding her horse forward. The group of people didn't dare to stop Zhao Fu's group. They thought to themselves that Zhao Fu's group was lucky. They didn't know that they had just been brought back from the brink of death. Zhao Fu and the others entered the city and planned to use the teleportation channel. However, they found that the teleportation channel was restricted and they needed the city lord's permission to use it. Helpless, Zhao Fu's group of 3 arrived at the city lord's mansion. Zhao Fu said to the guards, "I want to see your city lord." The guard replied, "What's the matter?" Zhao Fu said, "We want to borrow the teleportation formation." Hearing this, the guard said, "Right now, the teleportation formation is closed. You can't use it, and the city lord won't see you because of this. You can leave." Zhao Fu frowned. At that moment, the black-clothed woman walked out and was quite surprised to see Zhao Fu and the others. They had just met and had never thought that they would meet again so soon. Her name was Lan Zian. Lan Zian walked over and asked, "What do you want?" Zhao Fu looked at Lan Zian and smiled as he said, "We want to borrow the teleportation formation." Lan Zian replied, "That won't do. Right now, the situation is quite special, and the teleportation formation has been closed. You can go to another city and try." Zhao Fu did not say anything and nodded. The 3 of them left the city lord's mansion. Yu Chiye said, "Are we going to another city?" Zhao Fu gave a trace of smile. "Don't worry, leave it to me." Yu Shaoling looked at Zhao Fu and said, "You're up to something again, right?" Zhao Fu laughed. The night wind lightly blew. Lan Zian worriedly stayed in her room and thought about things. Thinking about the situation in the Heaven Awakened world, their city was under a lot of pressure. Suddenly, someone hugged her from behind. Lan Zian's face became slightly red as she said softly, "Don't mess around, husband." However, that person ignored her, and Lan Zian could not help but start to do it with that person. Soon, the lights dimmed. At that moment, a slim and beautiful woman came to the door and knocked on it as she said, "Second big sister, husband wants to discuss some matters with you." Hearing this, Lan Zian's expression fell. Who was the one doing this to her? However, she could not break free and quickly succumbed to it. The beautiful woman was called Lan Mu, and she felt quite strange. She knocked on the door again and said, "Second big sister, are you not here?" Lan Zian came back to her senses and did not dare to make a sound. However, Zhao Fu, that bastard, did not care at all. Hearing these voices, Lan Mu's face became red, and she thought about it. Her man was in the hall. So who was the person in the room? She had never thought that her second big sister would do such a shameless thing. What should she do now? Lan Mu felt quite troubled, and after thinking about it, she sighed and left without leaking this information. 2 hours later, Lan Zian saw that it was that bastard who had bullied her. She was quite surprised that he was so good-looking. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Madam." Hearing Zhao Fu's voice, Lan Zian immediately understood that Zhao Fu was the person she had met today and said angrily, "You bastard! I helped you out of goodwill, but you treated me like this." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "You can't blame me for this. If you had allowed me to use the teleportation channel, perhaps I would have left." Lan Zian said angrily, "You're shameless." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I'm shameless, so what?" Another hour later, Lan Zian lay in Zhao Fu's embrace. Her face red as she asked, "Stinky man, who are you?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I'm an ordinary person." Lan Zian lightly harumphed, "Stop lying. You're definitely much stronger than me. Also, I hope that you can help our city." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I can, but a city like yours won't last for long and will be destroyed sooner or later." Lan Zian said in a deep voice, "I know that, but we have no choice but to persevere. We don't have any way out." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I can recommend a place to you. It's not very far from here. It's also very safe." Lan Zian asked, "Where?" Zhao Fu looked outside and smiled as he said, "Wait." Zhao Fu stretched out his hand, and a formless hand pulled someone in. It was Lan Mu, and her face was red. Originally, Lan Mu had already left, but she wanted to know which man Lan Zian had hooked up with, the man who had betrayed them. As such, she quietly came back and eavesdropped at the door. Lan Mu was directly pulled onto the bed, and looking at Zhao Fu's face, Lan Mu did not resist and closed her eyes in anticipation. Zhao Fu lightly laughed. Soon, the sky brightened. The two women happily snuggled in Zhao Fu's embrace, and Lan Zian said, "Stinky man, can you tell me about that place now?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "If your city can't take it, you can go to the emotion sect." Lan Zian thought about it. "I know about the emotion sect. Although they're quite strong, I feel that they won't be able to resist for long." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "The emotion sect is different now. Their strength has greatly increased, and protecting you won't be a problem. You could trust me on this." Chapter 32-37. Book 1, Chapter 181. The power of the Emotion Maiden sect leader had been developed by Zhao Fu, and their power would quickly soar. This was why Zhao Fu had the confidence to say such words. Lan Zian asked, "Really?" Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Lan Zian let out a long sigh. "I'll believe you this once. In the future, our city will have a way out." Lan Mu said shyly, "I want to go with you." Lan Zian looked surprised and asked, "Third sister, you've decided?" Lan Mu nodded. "Things have already come to this, so I have to make a choice. I'll be happier staying by his side than staying by my husband's side." Lan Zian looked at Zhao Fu and lightly harumphed. "What's so good about a stinky man like him?" Zhao Fu lightly laughed. At that moment, the door was pushed open, and a proud woman wearing a white dress looked at the scene in front of her with a look of anger. She pointed at Lan Zian and said, "The two of you actually did such a despicable thing." She was the big madam, Lan Aoyi. Last night, Lan Zian had not gone to discuss the matter, and she had come to take a look this morning. However, when she heard that the two madams were in a room with a man, she directly pushed open the door and saw the scene in front of her. Seeing Lan Aoyi barge in, Lan Zian panicked. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Don't be afraid. Leave it to me." Lan Aoyi coldly looked at Zhao Fu. "I think you used your face to hook up with the two madams. It's a pity that you're going to die soon. I'll report this matter to my man, the city lord, and have him execute you. As for the two of you, I'll see how the city lord deals with you." Zhao Fu gave a slight smile and walked forwards. Lan Aoyi coldly said, "What do you want?" Zhao Fu pounced over and carried Lan Aoyi back to the bed. A few hours later, Zhao Fu, Yu Shaoling, and Yu Chia arrived at the teleportation array. There were also 3 women standing next to him. They were Lan Ay, Lan Zian, and Lan Mu. Lan Ay glared at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes. Zhao Fu had bullied her badly just now. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I'm leaving. Remember, if you can't hold on any longer, immediately go to the Emotion Maiden sect." Lan Zian smiled and said, "We know. You should be careful too." Lan Mu was a little upset. "Are you really not going to bring me along?" Zhao Fu nodded. "We're going to the water this time. It's going to be very dangerous." Lan Mu looked disappointed and didn't say anything else. Zhao Fu looked at Lan Aoyi and smiled. "What do you want to say to me?" Lan Ay snorted. "No, hurry up and leave." Zhao Fu smiled and activated the teleportation array before disappearing. Seeing Zhao Fu teleport away, Lan Zian smiled and said, "Let's go back as well." Just as the 3 women returned to the City Lord's mansion, they were called over by the City Lord. There was a scholarly middle-aged man sitting there. He was the City Lord, Lan Wenkai. Lan Wenkai smiled as he looked at the 3 women and said, "I heard that you just used the teleportation array to help 3 people leave." Hearing this, the 3 women became nervous as they thought about what had happened with Zhao Fu. Lan Zian was the calmest and nodded. Lan Wenkai smiled and said, "I was just asking, nothing else." The 3 women let out sighs of relief. Lan Wenkai walked down and hugged Lan Zian as he said caringly, "You've been working hard for the city these past few days. You must be tired." Lan Zian felt uncomfortable being hugged and couldn't help but struggle free. Lan Wenkai looked quite startled. Lan Zian reacted and understood that it was because of that bad fellow, Zhao Fu. She said, "I still have things to do, so I'll head down first." Lan Wenkai nodded blankly. Lan Ay was also quite curious as to why Lan Zian had changed so much. Lan Wenkai looked at Lan Ay and was about to hug her. Seeing Lan Wenkai hug her, Lan Ay didn't know why, but she felt disgusted and instinctively dodged. This caused Lan Wenkai to feel quite startled. Lan Ay also felt quite strange. She actually hated her husband, and this was the first time. She even felt a sense of betrayal, as if being hugged by Lan Wenkai would be betraying that man. It was as if that man was her real husband. "This damn bastard," Lan Ay cursed in her heart. Lan Wenkai asked, "What's wrong?" Lan Ay quickly said, "I'm fine. I'll head down." Lan Ay didn't wait for Zhao Fu to reply and quickly left. Lan Mu looked at the scene in front of her and immediately left. This caused Lan Wenkai to stand there with a strange look on his face. He didn't know what had happened. Why had his 3 beloved wives become like this? Zhao Fu and the other 2 teleported to the next city. In this city, Zhao Fu saw many aquatic creatures. Some of them had the heads of octopuses and the bodies of humans. Some had fins on their ears, and some had frog-like feet. They were also covered in fish scales. This place should be very close to the water domain, which was why there were so many aquatic creatures. Zhao Fu smiled. They were finally reaching the water domain. In the past, Zhao Fu would have been able to find the water domain. However, because of the invasion of the 2 worlds, Zhao Fu would have been so slow. "Let's continue," Zhao Fu said. Yu Chia smiled and nodded. She hadn't returned to the water domain for many years. To her, the water domain was like her home. Now, she felt like she was about to return home. Yu Xiaoling's expression didn't change. She didn't leave for long like Yu Chia. The 3 of them left the city and continued flying toward the water domain. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After flying for more than an hour, countless arrows shot at Zhao Fu and the other 2. They were like countless raindrops, carrying with them a sharp power. It was as if they were going to turn Zhao Fu and the other 2 into beehives. Zhao Fu waved his hand, and a huge gust of wind knocked the countless arrows away. He looked down and saw a group of card soldiers. Originally, Zhao Fu didn't want to pay attention to them and continued flying toward the water domain. However, these people threw out card after card. The card turned into spots of light and dissipated, turning into countless wind blades that flew toward Zhao Fu. The sound was very terrifying. Zhao Fu's expression turned cold. He took out a sword and swung it forward. A huge sword light slashed out, carrying with it an unparalleled power. The sword split apart the countless wind blades. A huge gust of wind blew out, causing countless plants to sway violently. The many card soldiers on the ground looked shocked and hurriedly gave the order to retreat. You still want to leave? It's too late. I gave you a chance. Zhao Fu snorted coldly. He rushed over with his sword and began the slaughter. Zhao Fu swung his sword again and again. Huge sword lights slashed out in all directions. Facing Zhao Fu's powerful power, many of the card soldiers couldn't resist at all. Their bodies were cut open by the sword lights, and screams sounded out. Blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the ground red. After easily killing these card soldiers, just as Zhao Fu was about to leave, another group of people walked out. Chapter 32-38. Book 1. Chapter 182. There were not many people in this group, only 6 of whom were riding horses. There was also a carriage behind them. The 6 of them were all women with noble auras. One of them was a tall and dignified woman called Huang Sang. She looked at Zhao Fu and said, "Thank you, sir, for your help." Zhao Fu felt quite startled and understood what was going on. It turned out that the card soldiers had been chasing after this group of people and had mistakenly thought that Zhao Fu had come to save them. So they had ferociously attacked Zhao Fu's group of 3. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "You're welcome." A woman wearing a green palace dress and with a fiery figure called Huang Lu looked at Huang Sang. Huang Sang said, "I want to ask you to escort us to the nearest city, and we'll give you a reward." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "I'm not interested in this reward." Huang Sang asked, "What do you want?" Zhao Fu looked at the women and smiled as he said, "You." Hearing this, the women felt quite angry. Cough, cough. A man coughed within the carriage. Zhao Fu asked, "Who's in the carriage?" Huang Sang said, "He's Huang Minghua's emperor, and I'm Huang Minghua's queen. We won't agree to your request, but we'll give you a surprise reward." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "I already said that I'm not interested. Also, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving." Huang Sang frowned. At that moment, a woman called Huang Mingmei, who was wearing a yellow dress and had a gentle aura, walked into the carriage and quickly said, "His Majesty's injuries have worsened." Hearing this, the women's expressions changed. Zhao Fu lightly smiled as he said, "I can save her and point out a safe place to go. What do you think of this deal?" Huang Sang's expression was cold. Huang Lu said, "Let's agree to him. Otherwise, we'll all die." A flirtatious woman named Huang Yao said, "I don't have any objections. Right now, we have nowhere else to go. If he hadn't saved us, we might have died." Huang Ling, a mature woman with a delicate face, said with a cold expression, "I have no objections. He saved us, and I don't want to owe him anything." A beautiful woman with a graceful figure, Huang Li, blushed and said, "If you don't have any objections, then I don't either." Zhao Fu looked at them and said, "What do you think?" Huang Sang made up his mind and said, "All right, we promise you." Zhao Fu smiled and walked in front of the girls. Huang Sang said, "Save His Majesty first." Zhao Fu came to the carriage and saw a cold-looking man weakly lying on a horse. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and a powerful aura entered the man's body. With Zhao Fu's powerful help, the man's injuries quickly recovered. When the girls saw how fast his injuries healed, they also showed shocked expressions. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Is it fine now?" Huang Sang nodded. A few hours later, Zhao Fu had put on his clothes, and Huang Sang and the girls had also put on their clothes. Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged Huang Sang. Huang Sang did not struggle and looked at Zhao Fu as she asked, "Where's this safe place you were talking about?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "There's a city nearby. You can go there. If there's any danger, they'll take you to a safer place." Huang Sang nodded. Huang Mingmei's face became slightly red as she said, "Thank you for your help." Huang Ling lightly harumphed. "There's no need to thank him." Zhao Fu slightly smiled as he said, "You can go now. It's getting late, and I need to hurry on." Huang Sang nodded. At that moment, another group of people walked out. It was a group from the card world, and the leader was a man with long silver hair. He looked quite handsome and was called A.O. Delhi. He was a famous genius in the card world, and he had come to the Heaven Awakened world to train. Zhao Fu looked at the group of people who had just appeared. Seeing more people from the card world appear, Huang Sang and the girls immediately felt nervous. Their bodies unconsciously moved closer to Zhao Fu. A young man next to A.O. Delhi looked at the corpses on the ground, as well as Zhao Fu and the others, and said, "Your Highness, this person killed so many people from the card world. Let's go and kill him." A.O. Delhi looked at Zhao Fu and said, "Don't do anything. You're not a match for him." Now, A.O. Delhi felt a massive pressure from Zhao Fu, and this pressure caused him to feel a trace of fear. Zhao Fu looked at A.O. Delhi and the others and smiled. Seeing that they were not going to do anything, Zhao Fu did not want to do anything either. Huang Sang lay in Zhao Fu's embrace and asked, "What should we do now?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "You can all leave and leave this to me." Huang Sang kissed Zhao Fu and said, "Be careful. We'll be waiting for you to come back." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Huang Sang and the others quickly left. Zhao Fu looked at A.O. Delhi and asked, "What do you want?" A.O. Delhi asked, "I want to ask who you are and what rank your strength is in the Heaven Awakened world." Zhao Fu thought about it and said, "I don't know about that." A.O. Delhi said, "You're quite famous in the Heaven Awakened world. Why aren't you willing to tell me?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I don't want to tell you. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving." Hearing this, A.O. Delhi asked, "What faction do you belong to?" Zhao Fu thought about it and said, "Emperor Path College." A.O. Delhi nodded. Zhao Fu asked, "Is there anything else?" A.O. Delhi shook his head. Zhao Fu turned to Yu Qiye and said, "Let's go." The two women nodded. The young man looked at the three people flying away and asked, "Your Highness, why did you let them go?" A.O. Delhi said seriously, "He's not an ordinary person, and he might be even more powerful than me. I don't have any confidence in facing him, and the pressure he gives me is something I've only felt from the #1 expert in the card world." Hearing this, the young man looked quite shocked. Hearing this, he understood how terrifying Zhao Fu was. Huang Sang and the other women quickly headed to the city where Lan Zian was. Huang Mingmei said worriedly, "The auras that the people from the card world give off are so powerful. Can he really deal with them by himself?" Huang LV thought about it and said, "From the looks of it, he should be fine." Huang Li's face became slightly red. "I wonder when I'll be able to see him again." Everyone's faces became slightly red as they thought back to those unforgettable hours. At that moment, the cold-looking young man woke up and looked out of the carriage as he asked, "Where are we going?" Seeing that the cold-looking young man had woken up, the women all felt delighted, but they did not have the face to face him. Huang Sang smiled and said, "Your Majesty, we're heading to a city. We're heading to a city. Once we get there, we'll be safe." The cold-looking young man nodded and said, "How did my injuries heal so quickly?" The women looked at each other. Huang Sang replied, "A good person helped us just then." The cold-looking young man did not say anything else and returned to the carriage. His body was still quite weak. Chapter 32-39. Book 1. Chapter 183. Huang Li looked at the women and said softly, "What should we do now?" Huang Ling said, "I don't know if His Majesty will accept us if he knows about this. Also, for some reason, I want to be that guy's woman even more." Huang Li's face became slightly red. "Me too," Huang Mingmei said softly. "After His Majesty recovers, we'll tell him about this. After doing such a thing, I don't have the face to stay by His Majesty's side." Huang Sang said, "We'll talk about it after His Majesty recovers." Zhao Fu and the other two continued to fly forwards. After roughly 2 days of traveling, Zhao Fu and the other two finally reached the edge of the water domain. The water domain was a boundless expanse of water. Even though there was land, it was extremely rare. Almost all of the land was underwater, and there were many races and resources in the water, perhaps even more than on land. At this moment, Zhao Fu and the other two stood on the shore. The sky was light blue. There were many white clouds, and the water domain was extremely calm. A light breeze blew past, bringing up ripples. Zhao Fu asked, "Now that we've reached the water domain, where is your race?" Yu Shaoling pointed in a direction and said, "It's in that direction, but there's still some distance to go." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Let's enter the water domain." The two women nodded. The three of them fell into the water. What was surprising was that it was not dark underwater, and a large area of white light lit up the underwater world. What entered their eyes was a colorful scene, as if it was an indescribable fantasy. The plants here were all brightly colored. The green grass glowed, and the flowers bloomed beautifully. The trees had many branches and leaves, and they were all colorful. There were many corals on the ground, and they all had different colors. There were small fish swimming around, and they also had different colors. Yu Shaoling and Yu Qiye did not need to use any tools and could breathe freely underwater, just like on land. Zhao Fu immediately switched to the water race's element, and his body gave off the aura of the water race. He looked like a member of the water race, not a human. At the same time, Zhao Fu could also breathe underwater without using any tools. The three of them continued to descend. He came to the surface of the water and walked towards a small city. There were two soldiers with prawn heads and human bodies guarding the entrance. The three of them easily entered the small city without encountering any problems. Zhao Fu planned to use the teleportation array to continue in the direction of Yu Shaoling's clan. Boom, boom, boom. Roars were heard, and beams of light were shot from the side. The water couldn't escape the invasion of the alchemy world and the card world. Bang, bang, bang. This small city didn't have the ability to resist so many alchemy sacred beasts. The city walls were directly shattered, and some of the light beams shot into the city, destroying many buildings and sending countless fragments flying. Zhao Fu felt a headache coming on. After this wave of attacks, he reckoned that the small city's teleportation array would be unusable again. Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out, and many beams of light brought with them immense power as they shot over. This time, they shot into the city, and many explosions sounded out. Some of the water race were blasted to death, and blood flowed out. Now, the water race and the city were fleeing in panic, not daring to stay in the city for even a second. They didn't have any intention of resisting. The alchemy's sacred beasts caused them to feel despair. Zhao Fu sighed, "Let's go." Seeing this, Yu Shaoling and Yu Qiye's expressions became quite grim. Their water race was being destroyed right in front of them, and the water race was dying and fleeing. The three of them flew forwards. Half a day later, Zhao Fu and the others came to another small city, and they used this small city to teleport away from this region. Luckily, even though the water had been invaded by the two worlds, there weren't as many as on land. Many teleportation arrays could be used, and Zhao Fu and the others were quite fast. "Big Sister Shaoling," a childish young man called out happily. Yu Shaoling looked over and smiled as she said, "Yumi, it's you." The one called Yumi ran over and looked at Yu Shaoling as she said, "Big Sister Shaoling, you've been gone for so long. I've missed you so much." It seemed that Yumi liked Yu Shaoling a lot. Yu Shaoling felt quite awkward and looked at Zhao Fu as she explained, "His big sister and I are good friends, and their race has a good relationship with ours. Right now, we're within their territory." Zhao Fu nodded. Yumi looked at Zhao Fu with jealousy and asked, "Big Sister Shaoling, who is he?" Yu Shaoling's face became slightly red as she said, "He's my husband." "Eh." Yumi called out in disbelief. She had thought that the movie queen would marry Yu Shaoling, but she had never thought that Yu Shaoling would marry someone. "Is this true?" Yumi looked at Yu Shaoling and asked with certainty. Yu Shaoling nodded. Yumi immediately ran away while crying. Yu Shaoling sighed. It was impossible for her and Yumi to be together. Even without Zhao Fu, she would at most treat Yumi as her little brother. A woman with a graceful figure, snow-white skin, and exquisite features walked out and called out, "Shaoling." She was Yumi's big sister, Yu Yu. Yu Shaoling looked at Yu Yu and said, "Apologies." Yu Yu smiled and said, "It's all right. Let my silly little brother see reality as soon as possible so that he doesn't fall into it in the future." Yu Shaoling smiled slightly. Yu smiled and said, "What did you do after leaving for so long? You only came back now." Yu Shaoling smiled and said, "Nothing much." Yu looked at Zhao Fu and said, "Is he really your man?" Yu Shaoling nodded. Yu was a bit worried and said, "Although your clan doesn't restrict saintesses from marrying, that's only after you stop being a saintess. Also, the rules are very strict. Will it be alright if you find a man and come back now?" Yu Shaoling rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. Although she didn't want to, Zhao Fu had already taken her by force, so she had no choice. Yu Shaoling said, "Please keep this a secret for me. I'll make it public after I've dealt with it." Yu smiled and said, "No problem." Yu Shaoling said, "Thanks." Yu smiled and said, "It's all right. We haven't seen each other for so long. Come to my house." Yu Shaoling looked at Zhao Fu. Yu chuckled. "Shaoling, no way. You need to ask your man's opinion to go to my place? That's not like you." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Anyway, we're almost at your clan. It's fine to stay here for a few days." Yu Shaoling smiled and said, "Okay, let's go." Yu took Yu Shaoling's hand and walked to the side. Zhao Fu looked at Yu Qiye and said, "Let's go." Yu Qiye nodded. They were about to return to their clan. Thinking of those people in the past, Yu Qiye couldn't help but feel nervous. The two followed Yu and came to a mansion. Chapter 3240. Book 1, Chapter 184. At this moment, two people walked out. One was a mature, beautiful woman, and the other was a stern-looking man. They were called Yu Shui and Yu Yin respectively. Seeing them, Yu called out with a smile, "Dad, Mom." Yu Shui nodded with a smile. Yu Yin nodded and left the house without paying attention to Zhao Fu and others. Yu Shui looked at Yu Shaoling and smiled. "When did you come back?" Yu Shaoling smiled and said, "I just came back." Yu Shui said with a smile, "That's good. Eat at my house and let us welcome you." Yu Shaoling nodded. "Thank you." Yu Shui looked at Yu Qiye with some surprise. "This is your previous generation's holy maiden?" Yu Shaoling nodded. Yu Shui said, "I heard that the previous generation saintess was expelled and took the 8-directional water world with her when she left. You left for so long to find the 8-directional water world. Have you found it?" Yu Shaoling said awkwardly, "I can't tell you right now." Yu Shui chuckled. "It doesn't matter." They walked into the hall together. Yu Shaoling and Yu continued chatting while Zhao Fu and Yu Qiye sat on the side. Yu Shui went to instruct the servants to prepare food. Yumi also came back sadly. Yu Shui asked curiously, "What happened to our son?" Yumi shook her head, not wanting to tell her mother about this. Yu Shui said with a smile, "All right, your big sister Shaoling is back. I've asked them to prepare some dishes, as well as some of your favorites." Yumi thought about it and nodded happily. After the food was prepared, everyone sat at the table. Yu Shaoling was a little surprised. She did not expect Yumi to return to normal so quickly, and she seemed to be very happy. Yumi smiled and said, "Sister Shaoling, let me pour some wine for you." Yu Shaoling smiled and nodded, drinking the wine that Yumi poured for her. After a while, Yu Shaoling felt a bit dizzy and laid down on the table. The others also laid down on the table, and their faces became red. Their bodies twisted and they made some sounds. Seeing this scene, Yumi gave a sinister smile. He had put some medicine in the food, and in order to not arouse any suspicions, he had also drunk it, including his big sister and mother. However, he had the antidote. Yumi couldn't wait to pounce on Yu Shaoling, wanting to obtain this person of her dreams. Zhao Fu chuckled. Yumi's expression changed, and she looked at Zhao Fu in shock. "Why didn't you faint?" Zhao Fu said with a smile, "You won't be able to charm me with that little thing of yours." Yumi shouted in disbelief, "That's impossible. This is the watercolor fruit. Even an emptiness realm expert would be affected." Zhao Fu walked towards Yumi. Yumi shouted in fear, "What do you want to do?" "I'm warning you, this is my home. If you dare to hurt me, my parents will definitely kill you." Zhao Fu snorted in disdain. He stretched out his hand, and a huge black power entered the youth's body. At this moment, a hot body jumped into Zhao Fu's embrace. It was the beautiful woman, Yu Shui. Zhao Fu smiled faintly. It was a pitch-black night. The women gradually came back to their senses, and looking at the chaotic scene around them, as well as the crazy scenes that remained in their minds. Their faces blushed. Zhao Fu also pretended to wake up and asked what happened. Yu Shaoling rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. With her understanding of Zhao Fu, she could tell that he was pretending. Yu Qiye could tell as well. Moreover, he didn't think that this little bit of medicine could charm Zhao Fu. This man was the son of heaven enlightenment. Yu Yu and Yu Shui didn't know. Yu Shui went up to check the food and said in a low voice, "Who poisoned the food and wine?" After saying this, Yu Shui looked at Yumi on the ground. It was most likely Yumi who poisoned them, as Yumi was acting a bit abnormal. They went up to check and found the poison and antidote. Yu looked at Yumi, who had fainted on the ground, and sighed. Zhao Fu pretended to be angry and said, "We thought that your family would be so despicable to do such a thing. Now that you've made me lose my virginity, what do you want me to do in the future?" Yu Shui said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I didn't know that my son would do this." Yu said, "It was our fault, and we'll compensate you." Zhao Fu coldly snorted. "Compensate? I don't care. I'm going to announce this and expose your actions." Yu Shui and Yu Yu's expressions changed. If this was exposed, their family would have no place to stand. Yu hurriedly said to Yu, "Shaoling, persuade your man not to tell anyone about this." Yu Shaoling glared at Zhao Fu. "This guy just doesn't know what to do." She said, "Okay, let's pretend that nothing happened." Zhao Fu said angrily, "Nothing happened? How can we pretend that nothing happened?" Yu Shui said guiltily, "We will be responsible for you. If you need anything in the future, we will try our best to help you. Is that okay now?" Yu also said, "Since it has already happened, I can promise you that as my man, my good sister and I will serve you in the future. How about that? Think about how many men have never dreamt of such a thing." Zhao Fu rejoiced in his heart and said, "Okay, seeing that you're so sincere, I'll give you a chance." Yu and Yu Shui breathed a sigh of relief. Yu Shui said, "Why hasn't Yumi woken up yet? When he wakes up, I'll teach him a lesson." Yu said he also ate some food and wine. It will probably take a while for him to wake up. Yu Shui's eyes began to size up Zhao Fu. She didn't pay much attention to him before, but now that she looked carefully, she found that Zhao Fu had an intoxicating charm that she had never felt from other men, including her husband. Yu said, "Let's pack up quickly. My father may come back soon." Hearing this, everyone quickly packed up, and everything returned to normal. Soon after, Yin really came back. Seeing that the mother and daughter had changed a lot, he didn't care and went back to his room alone, not knowing whether to cultivate or read. Yu Shui breathed a sigh of relief. The next day, Yu Shaoling said, "We're leaving." Yu Shui looked at Zhao Fu and said, "Don't you want to stay for a few more days?" After what happened yesterday, Yu Shui had become infatuated with Zhao Fu. Hearing that Zhao Fu and the others were leaving, she looked reluctant. Yu Shaoling said with a smile, "Well, we have to go back to the clan. If you don't want him to leave, you can let him stay with you." Yu blushed and said, "How can I do that?" Yu Shaoling said with a smile, "Aren't you his woman now?" Yu Shui looked at Zhao Fu and asked, "Can I?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Okay." Yu Shui couldn't help but throw herself into Zhao Fu's arms. 2 hours later, Yu Shui's face was rosy and she gave off a charming aura. Standing at the door, she watched Zhao Fu and the others leave. Chapter 32-41 Book 1, Chapter 185 Yu Shaoling rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. "You're so shameless." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I'm shameless, so what?" Yu Shaoling lightly snorted, "That Yumi fainted because of you as well, right?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "That boy missed you so much that he even dared to drug you." Yu Shaoling said, "Is he okay? He's my good sister's little brother. Don't do anything to him." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "He's fine. He'll wake up soon. If it weren't for his sister and mother, I might not have woken him up." At this moment, Yumi woke up according to Zhao Fu's words. Seeing her sister and mother looking at her coldly, Yumi hurriedly knelt down and said, "Mother, I won't do it again. I only did it because I couldn't figure it out. There won't be a next time." Yu Shui coldly snorted. "Fortunately, you didn't make a big mistake. Otherwise, Mother would definitely cripple you. Yumi let out a sigh of relief and asked, "What about them?" Yu went back. Yumi said with some fear, "Sister Xiaoling's man is too scary." Yu Shui asked curiously, "What do you mean?" Yumi said, "The drug I gave him had no effect at all. The aura he gave off was extremely terrifying and instantly knocked me out." Yu and Yu Shui were stunned and understood that they had been fooled by Zhao Fu. Yu said angrily, "That stinky man. When he comes back next time, we must ask him." Yu Shui let out a sigh. "Forget it. However, he surprised me quite a bit. He actually has such great power. I wonder why he came here this time." Yu thought it might have something to do with the water world of the 8 directions. Yu Shui said, "The water world of the 8 directions is our water clan's sacred item. It's a pity that it's too difficult to use, and we can't fall out with their clan. Otherwise, I would also want to keep the water world of the 8 directions in our clan." Yumi looked confused and asked, "Mother, what happened after I fainted?" This caused Yu Jellyfish's face to turn red as she said, "Nothing happened." Yumi looked at her mother and sister strangely and gave a simple "oh." Zhao Fu and the other 2 continued forward. Zhao Fu came to another city, and just as he was about to enter, a well-built man wearing armor walked out and smiled as he called out, "Xiaoling." Looking at his burning gaze, Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I didn't expect so many people to like you." Yu Xiaoling snorted, "Of course, I also have great charm." Yu Xiaoling's attitude towards him was rather ordinary, so she nodded. The robust man's name was Yuli. He smiled and said, "I'll treat you to a meal." Yu Xiaoling smiled and said, "Thank you, but it's okay. Also, you don't have to pursue me. This is my husband." Yuli glared at Zhao Fu when she heard this, and her eyes were filled with hostility. "Is that so?" Seeing that Yu Xiaoling had shifted the topic to him, Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Yuli said coldly, "I want to test your strength first to see if you're qualified to be Xiaoling's man." Zhao Fu chuckled, "I'm not qualified. Take her away immediately." Yuli was taken aback. Yu Xiaoling glared angrily at Zhao Fu. Yuli snorted coldly, "I won't allow Xiaoling to be with a trash like you. Leave her side immediately." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "What if I don't?" Yuli directly punched Su Bai with a strong gust of wind. With a smile on his face and disdain in his eyes, Zhao Fu stretched out his finger and flicked it. A powerful force sent Li flying far away. She fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Yuli looked at Zhao Fu in shock. How could this man in front of her be so strong? At this time, a woman in blue armor with long blue hair and a hot figure rode out on a horse. She glared at Zhao Fu coldly. "You dare to hurt my people?" She was accompanied by a few female guards with long blue hair, who were similarly good-looking, wearing armor and riding horses. Yu Xiaoling frowned and walked over to Zhao Fu. "She's the daughter of Patriarch Yu. Her name is Yu Si. I don't have a good relationship with her." Zhao Fu nodded. Yu Si also saw Yu Xiaoling and said, "Yu Xiaoling, when did you come back?" Yu Xiaoling said, "I just came back." Yu Si snorted coldly. "Your people hurt my people. What do you think I should do?" Yu Xiaoling said, "It was your people who attacked my people, while my people fought back. You should apologize to me first. Otherwise, I'll report this to the Patriarch." Yu Si looked at Yuli. "Is that what happened?" Yuli nodded awkwardly. Yu Si coldly harumphed. "I won't argue with you this time. Be careful in the future." Yu Xiaoling lightly laughed. "It's you." Yu Si angrily looked at Yu Xiaoling. "We haven't seen each other for so long. Shouldn't we have a competition?" Just as she spoke, Yu Si leapt off her horse. With a powerful aura, she sent a palm towards Yu Xiaoling. Yu Xiaoling took a step forward and also sent a palm towards Yu Si. Bang! The 2 palms collided with each other. A powerful force spread out, causing the ground to crack and a strong wind to blow in all directions. Yu Xiaoling took a step back. Yu Si, on the other hand, took 3 or 4 steps back. Her face was pale as she stared at Yu Xiaoling. "How did you become so strong?" Yu Xiaoling looked at Zhao Fu. Originally, her strength had been about the same as Yu Si's. However, with the help of Zhao Fu's strength, her constitution and strength had surpassed Yu Si's. Yu Xiaoling lightly laughed. We haven't seen each other for so long. You haven't been playing, right? Your strength hasn't increased at all. Yusi coldly said, just you wait. Next time, I'll definitely make you look bad. Now that Yusi knew that she was not a match for Yu Shaoling, she did not want to waste any more time with Yu Shaoling, so she left with her people. Yuli also left, not daring to stay here. Yu Shaoling slightly smiled. Thanks. You bad guy. Zhao Fu lightly laughed. You're welcome. The three continued to walk into the city. Using the city's teleportation array, they teleported to Yu Shaoling's territory. Zhao Fu looked at Yu Qiye and said, Now, return to your clan. Put on a cloak to hide your identity. I want to see what happens next. Hearing this, Yu Qiye nodded and put on a white cloak. Zhao Fu looked at Yu Shaoling and asked, Are you going to report to the Patriarch? Yu Shaoling nodded. What else can I do? Zhao Fu said, Now that you know the Patriarch's true goal, what do you think? Yu Shaoling seriously said, I definitely won't stand on her side. If possible, I want to announce this matter. Now, I also want to see her attitude towards me. Zhao Fu said, and I'll accompany you this time in case anything happens. Yu Shaoling slightly smiled. Chapter 3242. Book 1. Chapter 186. Yu Shaoling led Zhao Fu to a tall building. When the guard at the door saw Yu Shaoling return, he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression and bowed. Greetings, Saintess. Yu Shaoling nodded and led Zhao Fu inside. Along the way, the people beside him all bowed to him. Finally, Yu Shaoling brought Zhao Fu to a palace made of ice crystals. Sitting on top of the palace was a woman wearing an ice-colored dress. She had a graceful figure, icy long hair, and an exquisite, world-weary face. At first glance, she looked like a villain. She was the patriarch of the Water Fish clan, Yu Fenghua. Yu Shaoling bowed. Greetings, patriarch. Yu Fenghua looked at Yu Shaoling and said coldly, Did you bring back the octagonal water world? Yu Shaoling answered, No. Yu Fenghua said coldly, You've been gone for so long. Haven't you gained anything? Yu Shaoling said, I've been looking for the whereabouts of the previous generation Saintess. I found that the previous generation Saintess had died, and the omniscient water world's whereabouts were unknown. I searched for a long time, but to no avail, so I came back. Yu Fenghua coldly snorted, That bitch, she's lucky. Yu Shaoling looked at Yu Fenghua and said, Clan leader, I have also heard of some things. Yu Fenghua asked, What is it? Yu Shaoling said, I heard that the Patriarch wants to use our clan's forbidden technique in the 8-direction water world. Yu Fenghua's expression did not change. She looked at Yu Shaoling and asked, Where did you hear it from? Yu Shaoling said, Others said it, but I didn't believe it. Yu Fenghua asked, Did you hear it from the Yuji clan? Yu Shaoling shook her head. No, I don't know their identities either. Yu Fenghua replied, Yes. You can leave first. Yes. Yu Shaoling led Zhao Fu out of the room. After Yu Shaoling left, Yu Fenghua revealed a trace of killing intent. A transparent figure walked out from the side. The figure's body slowly solidified. She had transformed into a woman with a sexy figure, exquisite features, and a cold temperament. Her name was Yulong, Yu Fenghua's personal guard and also the person she trusted the most. Yulong cupped his hands. Patriarch, do you need me to kill her? Yu Fenghua said coldly, No need. She should know something. If she spreads this out, it will be bad for me. Let's see what she does first. Yulong said, Patriarch, with your power, even if you kill her directly, no one will say anything. I'm worried that she will leak this matter, so it's better to act as soon as possible. Yu Fenghua said, I know. You can go now. Yulong glanced at Yu Fenghua and slowly disappeared. On the road, Zhao Fu looked at Yu Shaoling beside him and said, What do you plan to do now? Yu Shaoling said, It seems that what Yu Qiye said is true. I feel that the Patriarch really wants to use our clan's forbidden technique. If she is still the Patriarch, she will definitely cause the destruction of our water clan. I must stop her. Zhao Fu said, What do you plan to stop her? Yu Shaoling said, Although the Patriarch has the most power, not everyone trusts her. I plan to contact some elders and overthrow the current Patriarch. Zhao Fu reminded. This might be very difficult. Maybe others won't believe you. Yu Shaoling revealed a smile. Then Yu Qiye can come in handy. With her testimonial, I think she should be able to convince the elders. Zhao Fu nodded. The two returned to Yu Shaoling's residence. Yu Qiye asked, "How is it?" Yu Shaoling said, "I plan to contact the elders to overthrow the patriarch." Yu Qiye looked at Yu Shaoling and said, "Do you believe me now?" Yu Shaoling nodded and said apologetically, "I'm sorry. If we succeed in overthrowing the patriarch, I'm willing to hand myself over to you." Yu Qiye's expression didn't change. He asked, "How do you plan to overthrow the patriarch? Do you know the patriarch's strength?" Yu Shaoling said, "I will contact the elders. When the time comes, I will need your help. No matter what, we have to overthrow her. Otherwise, our clan will be destroyed by her sooner or later." Yu Qiye nodded. "I will support you on this point." Following that, Yu Shaoling secretly wrote some letters to the elders of the Water Clan and arranged a place to discuss. The next day, Yu Shaoling came to the secret chamber alone, but didn't see anyone. Her expression changed. She understood that something had happened and wanted to leave immediately. A figure appeared in the secret chamber and blocked Yu Shaoling. He sneered, "Do you think those elders will believe you?" Yu Shaoling said coldly, "I have indeed underestimated the patriarch's strength. Did the patriarch send you to kill me now?" Yulong said coldly, "You're wrong. The patriarch won't kill you if you don't know what you know. Now, be obedient and come with me." Yu Shaoling suddenly slapped at Yulong. Yulong revealed a trace of disdain and also slapped at Yu Shaoling. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Yulong took a step back and revealed a surprised expression. "How did your strength increase so much?" Yu Shaoling didn't reply and ran to the side. Yulong's cultivation was higher than hers. What happened just now was just a surprise. If she stayed and fought with Yulong, she would still lose. Yulong hurriedly chased after her. On the other side, a group of people had surrounded Yu Shaoling's residence. Yu Qiye saw everyone's ugly expressions and understood that something unexpected had happened. Zhao Fu stood in his original spot without any change in expression. A voluptuous woman with a flirtatious face looked at Yu Qiye and said coldly, "A sinner like you still dares to return." She was called Yu Yu, an elder of the Waterfish clan. Yu Qiye hurriedly said, "Back then, I left with the 8-directional water world for a reason." Yu Yu sneered, "Do you think I'll believe you? Quickly hand over the 8-directional water world, and I can spare your life." Yu Qiye shouted, "Regardless of whether you believe me or not, I still have to say it. Back then, the patriarch used our clan's forbidden art. That's why I left with the 8-directional water world." A tall, beautiful woman wearing a green dress sneered, "It's not good for you to lie. Think about it. Why would our patriarch do such a thing?" Her name was Yu Fei, and she was also an elder of the Waterfish clan. A short-haired, well-built woman called Yu Mei shouted, "Don't waste your breath with her. Take them down first." Hearing this, everyone charged at Zhao Fu and Yu Mei. Yu Mei rushed to the front and held a halberd. She gave off a shocking power as she stabbed toward Zhao Fu. Boom! Zhao Fu sent out a palm strike. Each powerful palm strike struck at Yu Mei, forcing her back. Yu Fei slashed out with her sword, sending out a sharp sword light toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu waved his hand, and a gust of wind pushed Yu Fei back. Yu Yu forcefully sent a palm strike towards Zhao Fu's chest. Chapter 3243. Book 1, Chapter 187, translated by Hypersheep 325, edited by Mike. Here Zhao Fu struck Yu Pomelo's abdomen. Yu Pomelo spat out a mouthful of blood and hastily retreated. She looked at Zhao Fu with an unsightly expression. This person's strength was beyond their imagination. Everyone charged at Zhao Fu. Boom! A powerful and domineering power exploded out, and a formless gravitational force covered everyone, causing them to immediately stop and reveal expressions of terror. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and grabbed at the air, causing the 3 chains to fly towards the 3 elders. Immediately, the 3 elders were bound. Zhao Fu picked up Yu Qiye with his other hand and took the 3 elders with him, flying towards the horizon. Zhao Fu brought everyone to a forest. Yu Mei stared at Zhao Fu and said coldly, "Who are you? How is it that you can subdue me with one move, even though we have the same cultivation?" Actually, the three elders weren't weak at all. Their cultivation had reached the emptiness realm. Unfortunately, they were facing Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu chuckled and said, "Guess who I am?" Yu Pomelo snorted coldly and said, "How can I guess?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Let's not talk about this first. Why did you suddenly surround us?" Yu Pomelo said, "The patriarch said that the saintess betrayed the clan. The previous saintess is also there. We came to capture you." Zhao Fu thought for a moment and asked, "After you received Yu Shaoling's letter, you immediately reported it to the patriarch?" Yu Pomelo nodded. Zhao Fu asked, "Why don't you believe Yu Shaoling?" Yu Mei snorted and said, "One is the patriarch who wields great power. The other is the saintess who has left for a long time. Who do you think we would believe more?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "That's right." Yu Chie said seriously, "But I didn't lie to you. The patriarch really intends to use the forbidden technique." Yu Fei looked at Yu Chie and said, "What proof do you have?" Yu Chie said, "The altars are the proof." Yu Fei sneered, "What a joke. That altar is used to offer sacrifices to our ancestors, and it also has the function of protecting our clan. How could it be used to offer sacrifices to our clan?" Yu Chie looked seriously at the three. "Think about it. Why would I lie to you? What's in it for me? Originally, I didn't have to come back, but I came back because I was worried that our clan would be destroyed in the hands of the clan leader." The three girls thought carefully and realized that Yu Chie had no reason to lie to them. There were also many things that didn't make sense. But would the clan leader really sacrifice their entire clan for the sake of greater power? They didn't really believe it either. Yu Mei suddenly said, "Is the omniscient water world still with you?" Yu Chie shook his head and looked at Zhao Fu. Yu Mei looked at Zhao Fu and said, "The omniscient water world is on you. Now, hand over the sacred relic of our tribe, and perhaps we can trust you." Zhao Fu chuckled. "Even if I give it to you, you won't be able to take it." Yu Mei asked, "What do you mean?" Yu Chie said, "He has already refined the omniscient water world and is its true master." The three girls were astonished. How is that possible? The water world had been with their tribe for a long time, and they could only use a portion of its power. They had been unable to refine it, and had relied on their tribe's forbidden arts to control the water world's power. The price had been the sacrifice of countless clansmen. But this man in front of them had refined the water world. The trio found it unbelievable. Zhao Fu held one hand, and the fist-sized water world floated above Zhao Fu's palm, emitting faint light. Seeing it with their own eyes, the three girls' minds went blank. It was impossible not to believe it. Yu Mei stared at Zhao Fu. "Who are you? Why do you have such astonishing abilities?" Yu Chie said softly, "His status is far more noble than you think." This time, he came to deal with the matter of the 8 Directions water world. The three girls looked at Zhao Fu. Yu Fei said, "You can release us. We'll trust you for now." Zhao Fu chuckled. "Sure, but there's something I need to do first." Yu Fei asked, "What is it?" Zhao Fu revealed a sinister smile and walked towards the three girls. At that moment, Yulong had already grabbed Yu Shaoling and brought her in front of Yu Fenghua. She had also suffered some injuries. Yu Fenghua looked coldly at Yu Shaoling and said, "I've been good to you. Why did you betray me?" Yu Shaoling said coldly, "You want to sacrifice our tribe? How can I agree to that?" Yu Fenghua said, "I will sacrifice most of them, but I will leave a small portion of them. It's not like I'm sacrificing all of them. You were originally one of them." Yu Shaoling said angrily, "As the tribe leader, how can you do this? Are you worthy of the trust of your tribe?" Yu Fenghua snorted. "What do you know? Our tribe has already fallen to such a state. If this continues, there will be no hope. Only by controlling the 8-directional water world can our tribe have a chance of revival. Otherwise, our tribe will only slowly perish." Yu Shaoling said with a cold expression, "I won't agree to that either." Yu Fenghua said coldly, "Tell me everything you know, and I'll let you die a quick death." Yu Shaoling said, "Tell you what?" Yu Fenghua said, "You should have learned about this through Yu Chie. Bulls did you tell? What is the identity of that cloaked man? And where is the eight-directional water world now? Yu Shaoling sneered. You don't have to worry about this. Only the few of us know about this. However, you can't afford to offend that man. Yu Fenghua said coldly. Then who is he? Yu Shaoling said with a smile. His identity is very terrifying. Also, he is now the owner of the eight-directional water world. What? Yu Fenghua's expression changed. Yu Shaoling laughed and said, You didn't expect this, right? The eight-directional water world has already recognized him as its owner without paying any price. Yilong was very surprised. Yu Fenghua quickly asked, How did he do it? Yu Shaoling said with a smile, It's very simple. The eight-directional water world automatically recognized him as its owner. Yu Fenghua said angrily, I don't believe it. She really didn't believe that the eight-directional water world, which she had planned for so many years and sacrificed countless clansmen to control, would so easily recognize someone else as its owner. Yu Shaoling looked at Yu Fenghua's current appearance and said with a smile, I said that his identity is very terrifying, far more terrifying than you think. He is the true owner of the eight-directional water world. In the future, he will also become the person who will lead our water race. Yu Fenghua stared at Yu Shaoling. I want to see how capable he is. Yu Fenghua said to Yu Long, Pass down the order. If that man doesn't come, cut off his head. Hearing this, Yu Long said, Patriarch, shouldn't we first figure out that person's identity? If his identity is really terrifying, it will cause serious consequences. Chapter 3244. Book 1, Chapter 188, translated by Hypersheep 325, edited by Mike. Here Yu Fenghua coldly snorted and said, No need. I just want to see who he is. Yulong nodded and left the hall. In the forest, the three elders put on their clothes with rosy faces and rolled their eyes at Zhao Fu. Yu Pomelo said, I believe you now. What do you plan to do next? Zhao Fu hugged Yu Chiye and said, Now that Yu Shaoling hasn't come, she should be in danger. I want to use the three of you to exchange for her. Otherwise, if the three of you return now, it will be easy for others to suspect you. Yu Pomelo nodded and said, If the Patriarch really wants to sacrifice our clan, then the few of us might not be the Patriarch's match. Zhao Fu said, I know. After you return, you can contact the other elders. If possible, I feel that you can also seek help from the Yuji clan. Yu Mei frowned and said, It's not good to let outsiders interfere in our clan's matters. It might even have a negative impact on our clan. Zhao Fu said with a smile, Leave this to me. When Yu Fenghua heard that Zhao Fu wanted to use the three elders to exchange for Yu Shaoling, she was displeased. She originally wanted to use Yu Shaoling to force Zhao Fu to take back the eight-directional water world. But now she was in a bit of a dilemma, mainly because the three elders had noble statuses and held great power in the clan. If something happened to them, then their subordinates would cause a lot of trouble, so it would be best if Yu Fenghua agreed after thinking about it. However, Yu Fenghua still asked for the two sides to exchange people. Zhao Fu thought about it and agreed. Firstly, Yu Fenghua's cultivation was only at the peak of the Dao realm and had not reached the Almighty realm. Zhao Fu still had a trace of self-protection. Secondly, Zhao Fu now had a good item that could protect Zhao Fu's safety. The two agreed to meet in a wide grassy area. Yu Fenghua came here with Yu Shaoling, and Zhao Fu also came here with the three elders. Yu Fenghua coldly sized up Zhao Fu. You are the man that Yu Shaoling spoke of. Tell me who you are and what abilities you have. How did you make the Eight Sides Water world recognize you as its master? Zhao Fu smiled and said, Why should I tell you? Yu Fenghua's expression turned cold. You're not afraid that I'll kill you? Zhao Fu smiled and said, You can try, but I can't guarantee the safety of the three elders. Yu Fenghua coldly snorted, I want to make sure that you really refine the eight-directional water world, and then we can trade. Hearing this, Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and the eight-directional water world flew out from Zhao Fu's palm, emitting a huge amount of water power. Yu Fenghua looked at Zhao Fu really refining the eight-directional water world, and was shocked in her heart. What Yu Shaoling said was likely to be true, and now that the eight-directional water world had recognized her as its master, could she still use the clan's forbidden technique? Years of plans were completely disrupted, and in the face of Zhao Fu, Yu Fenghua's heart also suffered a great blow. It seemed that no matter how hard she worked, no matter how much she planned, she could not compare to the talent of others. Yu Fenghua felt a little lost in her heart, and said to Yu Shaoling next to her, "You can go." Yu Shaoling's expression froze. She did not expect that Yu Fenghua would let her leave so easily. Yu Fenghua also did not hesitate, and quickly ran towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smiled and let the three elders leave. Yu Shaoling happily threw herself into Zhao Fu's embrace. "Thank you for saving me," Zhao Fu said with a smile. "It's nothing." Zhao Fu immediately carried Yu Shaoling and flew away. Yu Fenghua did not wait for the three elders to go over, and she turned and flew away. Yu and the other two elders also had strange expressions. Back at the palace, Yulong looked at Yu Fenghua, who had returned with a sad and disappointed expression, and asked, "Clan leader, what's wrong?" Yu Fenghua sighed and said, "That man really refined the eight-directional water world. Even if I obtain the eight-directional water world and use the clan's forbidden technique, it will be very difficult to refine it. All of our efforts will be in vain." Yulong said, "I wonder if we can find the other eight-directional water worlds." Yu Fenghua shook her head. "The other eight-directional water worlds are scattered everywhere, and it is impossible for us to find them with our abilities. Also, even if we find them, it will be useless. This eight-directional water world has been worshipped by our clan for generations, so it will be affected by our clan. The other eight-directional water worlds are not affected by our clan at all." Yulong said, "Clan leader, what should we do now?" Yu Fenghua sighed and said, "I'm tired and want to be alone." Yulong understood Yu Fenghua's current feelings, so she did not disturb her and silently left by herself. After Yu and the other two returned, they immediately secretly contacted the other elders. Everyone gathered together. Apart from Yu and the other two elders, another 5 elders came. The 8 of them had the greatest power in the Aqua clan. They were also very powerful. A beautiful woman wearing a blue robe called Yubu asked, "Why did you call us here?" Yu said seriously, "Yu Shaoling's words might be true." A slender and sweet-looking woman called Yu Pu said in shock, "Clan leader really wants to sacrifice our clan? That's impossible, right? I don't believe she would do that." Yu Fei said, "I didn't believe it at first, but after personally seeing the person who made the eight-directional water world recognize him as its master, I started to believe it." Hearing this, the 5 women looked shocked. The eight-directional water world recognized him as its master. Yu Fei nodded. A mature and beautiful woman wearing black clothes called Yu Yi asked, "Then do you have any proof that the clan leader wants to sacrifice our clan?" Yu said, "This time, it was that person who took the initiative to let us return. Also, think about why the clan leader suddenly said that the saintess had betrayed the clan. Also, the previous saintess has also returned. She can talk to you personally to prove it." Hearing this, the women were doubtful. A beautiful woman wearing a blue dress called Yu Wei said seriously, "This matter is very important, so we have to investigate it clearly. However, we can't trust the clan leader anymore. I also feel that it is somewhat suspicious." Another beautiful woman with a sexy figure and a whip named Fish Gray nodded. "I also agree. We can't easily trust anyone from either side." Yu said, "I'll let them talk to you now." At this moment, Zhao Fu and the other two walked in. The women looked at Yu Shaoling and Yu Qie with surprised expressions. Yu Wei directly said, "Yu Shaoling, what proof do you have that the clan leader wants to sacrifice our clan?" Yu Shaoling said, "I didn't believe it at first, but when I returned, the clan leader wanted to silence me. Also, the previous saintess was not a traitor. She was the one who saved our clan. If she had not stolen the eight-directional water world back then, our clan would have been gone." Yu Qie looked at Yu Shaoling and said, "I stole the eight-directional water world for this reason. I never thought of betraying our clan." Chapter 3245. Book 1, Chapter 189. Although there was no concrete evidence, with the two Sanuses testifying and the clan leader being quite suspicious, everyone started to believe it. Yue asked, "What should we do next?" Yu Shaoling said seriously, "We can give up any benefits or power, but for the sake of our clan, we must overthrow the current clan leader." Everyone nodded. Yu Yi asked, "Do you have a plan?" Yu Shaoling looked at Zhao Fu, and everyone looked at Zhao Fu. Only then did they notice Zhao Fu's existence. Yue looked at Zhao Fu and asked, "You're the person who refined the 8-directional water world, right?" Zhao Fu nodded and said with a smile, "We'll talk about this later." The women were stunned. Zhao Fu went forward and hugged the women. A few hours later, the women were nestled in Zhao Fu's embrace. Yu Yi said with a red face, "You bad guy. What do you think we should do next?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "You can just prepare here. I'll go to the Yuji clan and ask them to help. Overthrowing the clan leader should not be a problem." Yu Yi said, "Why are you so kind to help us?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "You're all my women. Shouldn't I help you? Don't worry, I won't interfere with your clan. You're still the ones with the most power." Yu Yi smiled and said, "We know." Zhao Fu said, "I'll be leaving then. Wait for my news." The women nodded. Zhao Fu got up and left the secret room. The women looked at each other and blushed. They seemed to have become closer to each other. Zhao Fu returned to the Yuji clan. He sneaked into a room and immediately hugged Yu Wu. Yu Wu glared at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu said, "You scoundrel, you still dare to come?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Why wouldn't I dare?" Yu Meng snorted. "Last time, you tricked us, mother and daughter, and I haven't settled the score with you yet. But you came here yourself. Do you really think I won't do anything to you?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I just don't believe it." As Zhao Fu spoke, he began to bully Yu Meng. Yu Meng blushed and did not resist, allowing Zhao Fu to bully her. After more than an hour, Zhao Fu held Yu Xi in his arms and said with a smile, "This time, I have something to discuss with you." Yu Hu said in Zhao Fu's arms, "What's the matter?" Zhao Fu briefly explained what had happened. Yu Hu revealed a surprised expression. "I've heard that the water fish tribe has such a forbidden technique. If Yu Fenghua wants to use it, then the water fish tribe will be finished." Zhao Fu said with a smile, "I want you to help me overthrow Yu Fenghua." Yu Meng said, "Although my status in the Yuji tribe is not low, I can't make the decision for such a big matter." Zhao Fu asked, "Then what should I do?" Yu Meng revealed a naughty smile and said, "You can go to our patriarch and try. I can help introduce you." Zhao Fu looked at Yu Meng and said, "You want me to sacrifice my body?" Yu Meng chuckled and said, "Yes, if you become the patriarch's man, it will be of great benefit to our family. Also, our patriarch is not bad, so you won't lose out." Zhao Fu said awkwardly, "I'm not that kind of person." Yumi smiled and said, "Don't give me that. I've seen through you. Are you going or not? If not, then forget it." Zhao Fu said with a smile, "I'll go." Yu Meng chuckled. Following this, Yu Meng brought Zhao Fu to a large hall, where a beautiful woman with a hot figure and an androgynous face, wearing a white robe, sat. She was the patriarch of the Yuji tribe, Yu Inzi, and her relationship with Yu Fenghua was average. Yu Meng bowed and said, "Greetings, patriarch." Yu Inzi looked at Yu Meng and said, "What's the important matter? Say it." Yu Meng said, "Yu Fenghua wants to use the tribe's forbidden technique, and many elders have decided to overthrow her together, hoping to get the patriarch's help." Yu Inzi was also a little surprised. "Such a big matter. Why haven't I heard anything about it?" Yu Meng replied, "This matter was caused by the saintess of the aquatic fish clan, Patriarch. You should have heard about it." Yu Inzi nodded. "I didn't expect things to become so big." Yu Meng asked, "Patriarch, they also sent you a gift, hoping that you can agree to help them." Yu Inzi asked, "What gift?" Yu Meng smiled as she pointed at Zhao Fu, who was beside her, and said, "It's him." Zhao Fu took off his cloak, revealing his flawless face and extraordinary temperament, causing Yu Inzi to be somewhat dazed. Yu Meng smiled and said, "When will the patriarch be willing to help them?" Yu Inzi looked slightly troubled. This is their clan's matter, and if our clan interferes, it will have a negative impact. It might even destroy the relationship between our two clans. Yu Meng said, Patriarch. The aquatic fish clan's patriarch wants to destroy the aquatic fish clan. And if we help them now, they will be even more grateful, and the relationship between our two clans will become even better. This matter is very beneficial to us, and if Yu Fenghua succeeds in using the forbidden technique, we will lose an ally. Yu Inzi started to think, are you sure that all of the aquatic fish clan's elders have joined in? Zhao Fu smiled and said, Patriarch, I can guarantee this. Yu Inzi nodded. Good. I can help you. Zhao Fu smiled and said, Many thanks, Patriarch. Yu Inzi slightly smiled and said, Following this, she sized up Zhao Fu. It would be a lie if Yu Inzi was not moved by a man of Zhao Fu's level. Yu Meng understood and smiled as she said, Patriarch, I'll be taking my leave. After Yu Meng left, Yu Inzi smiled as she looked at Zhao Fu and said, Come up. Zhao Fu walked up. Yu Inzi pulled Zhao Fu into her embrace. A few hours later, Yu Inzi hugged Zhao Fu and smiled as she said, I've never enjoyed a man like you before. In the future, you will be my husband, and I will give you a status. What do you think? Zhao Fu smiled and said, Many thanks, Patriarch. Right now, I just want you to help the aquatic fish clan. Yu Inzi smiled and said, I know. Zhao Fu said, I still need to go back and tell the elders about this and have them prepare to act. Yu Inzi said, You stay here with me and don't go back. Zhao Fu said awkwardly, Patriarch, I've made an agreement with the elders. If I don't go back, they will think that something happened. Yu Inzi said helplessly, All right, remember to come back as soon as possible. You're my little man, so don't have too much contact with other women in the future. Zhao Fu smiled and said, I know. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to the aquatic fish clan and smiled as he told everyone about this matter. Everyone immediately made a plan and prepared to act the next day to resolve this matter as quickly as possible. At this moment, Yu Fenghua was in the palace, feeling depressed and upset. She did not know that something big was about to happen. Chapter 32-46 Book I Chapter 190 The elders gathered as quickly as possible and controlled Yu Fenghua's strength. Then they brought a large number of people and attacked Yu Fenghua's palace. Yu Long was killed by a few elders and escaped into the palace. Looking at the dispirited Yu Fenghua, he hurriedly said, Clan leader, quickly run. The elders have already rebelled and are coming with people to capture you. Hearing this, Yu Fenghua's expression became furious, and she walked out with Yulong. At this moment, the palace was also surrounded by countless people. Yu Fenghua said angrily, Why did you betray me? Yu said coldly, Clan leader, we don't want to do this, but you actually want to sacrifice our clan for greater power. We will never allow it. Seeing that the matter was completely exposed, Yu Fenghua didn't hide it anymore. She coldly snorted. Only like this can our clan have a future. Think about it. Just by sacrificing some of our clansmen, I will lead our clan to prosperity. Isn't that great? Yuli said angrily, That won't do. We won't let our clansmen be sacrificed like this. Yu Fei looked at Yu Fenghua and said, Clan leader, if you do this, our clan's population will greatly decrease. It is possible that you will cause our clan to go extinct. Yue also said, Even though doing this might allow our race to revive, it would mean sacrificing countless clansmen. This is absolutely unacceptable. Yu Fenghua said coldly, You don't need to persuade me. If Yu Chia hadn't stolen the omniscient water world, I would have succeeded long ago. I didn't think that the two people I chose to trust would betray me. Yu Shaoling sighed and said, Chief, if you hadn't done such a thing, my loyalty to you would never have changed. Now, we don't want to do anything to you. We only want you to abdicate. Yu Fenghua sneered. You want me to abdicate? You guys are here. As long as you defeat me, you will be the next patriarch. Boom! A powerful aura erupted from Yu Fenghua's body, like a huge wave that drowned everything in an instant. This powerful force caused everyone present to sink into fear. As the leader of the Aquafish clan, There was no need to mention how terrifying his strength was. Fortunately, everyone was prepared. Boom! A powerful force descended from the sky, and a figure appeared. It was Yu Enzi. Yu Fenghua looked at Yu Enzi coldly and said angrily, "Are you helping them too?" Yu Enzi said, "Right now, you've been deserted by everyone. I only came because of the pleas of many elders. I'm doing this for the good of your waterfish clan." Yu Fenghua coldly snorted, took out an ice crystal sword, and chopped at Yu Enzi. Yu Enzi also took out a long halberd and faced Yu Fenghua. Many elders also joined forces to attack Yu Fenghua. Boom, boom, boom. Massive sounds rang out as powerful auras spread out. A berserk gale blew out as the two sides started an intense battle. Although Yu Fenghua was powerful, in the face of everyone's attack, she soon began to be unable to resist. Boom! Yu Fenghua was sent flying by the attack. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Her face was slightly pale. Yue said, "Patriarch, just admit defeat." Yu Fenghua sneered, "Even if you kill me, I will not admit defeat. Anyway, my plan failed. I do not want to live." Yu said awkwardly, "We won't kill you." Yu Fenghua said coldly, "Then I'll kill you." Boom! Yu Fenghua gave off a powerful aura as she attacked everyone. In the end, as expected, Yu Fenghua was heavily injured and fainted, and she was locked up. After an unknown period of time, Yu Fenghua slowly opened her eyes and saw that her hands were tied and hung up. In front of her, there was an extremely perfect man who was looking at her with a smile on his face. She had never seen such a good-looking man before. "Who are you?" Yu Fenghua asked. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "You don't recognize me anymore?" Yu Fenghua thought about it and found that she had indeed never seen Zhao Fu before, so she asked, "Have we met before?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, I was by Yu Shaoling's side at that time." Yu Fenghua understood. "So it was you." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Patriarch, what do you want to say now?" Yu Fenghua said coldly, "I have nothing to say. After losing to you, you can do whatever you want to me." Zhao Fu gave a trace of a mischievous smile as he said, "That's what you said." Yu Fenghua said with a cold expression, "What do you want to do?" Zhao Fu hugged Yu Fenghua and said, "What do you think?" Yu Fenghua struggled and said, "Bastard, let me go." A few hours later, Yu Fenghua looked pleasantly surprised as she looked at Zhao Fu, who was bullying her, and asked, "What kind of power does your body have? Why is it able to cause such a big change in my power and loosen the bottleneck in my cultivation?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Don't you want the omniscient water world's power? I can give it to you." Yu Fenghua lightly harumphed. A day later, Yu Fenghua smiled as she looked at the octagonal mark on her chest. It gave off a wave of pure water energy, greatly increasing her constitution and power. She was now completely confident that she could break through to higher being or even higher realms. This mark was called the Omniscient Water Seal and contained the enormous power of the omniscient water world. Possessing the Omniscient Water Seal was equivalent to possessing the power of the omniscient water world. However, the power of the omniscient water world was limited by Zhao Fu and was not as powerful as the power that Zhao Fu had. It only had half of the original power, but it was still very useful and had countless benefits for the water race. She had finally obtained the power of the omniscient water world that she had yearned for. Although it was different from what she had expected, Yu Fenghua was still very happy. She had achieved her goal in a different way. Yu Fenghua looked at Zhao Fu lying on the side and lightly harumphed. "You stinky man, tell me how to refine the omniscient water world." Zhao Fu said with a smile, "It's very simple. Just inject some power into it, and it will recognize you as its master." Yu Fenghua looked surprised. "Is what Yu Shaoling said true? It's that simple?" Zhao Fu pulled her into his arms and said with a smile, "It's that simple." Yu Fenghua said in Zhao Fu's arms, "I've never heard of anyone who can do it. Your identity should be extraordinary, right? You should at least be a holy son." Zhao Fu smiled slightly. "What do you plan to do now?" Yu Fenghua looked at Zhao Fu and said, "What else can I do? You could do whatever you want with me." Zhao Fu said with a smile. Didn't you say that? To refine the omniscient water world and revive the water fish race. Yu Fenghua sighed. Although I obtained the power of the omniscient water world, it's not the same as refining it. Moreover, I'm no longer suitable to be the patriarch. I can't revive the water fish race with my ability, but you might. Chapter 32-47. Book 1. Chapter 191 translated by Hypersheep 325 edited by Mike. Here Zhao Fu smiled lightly and said, Don't tell me you want me to stay and be the clan leader? Yu Fenghua said, I want to, but you are not a member of our clan. I don't want to manage these matters now. Leave it to the elders. Zhao Fu said with a smile, Let's go out. Yu Fenghua nodded. The two went outside. Many elders and Yu Long were already waiting outside. Seeing Yu Fenghua's change in temperament, they were a little surprised. Zhao Fu said with a smile, Discuss the future of the Aqua clan. Everyone nodded. Zhao Fu carried Yu Long into the room. Yu Long did not struggle and remained expressionless in Zhao Fu's arms. The others came to the main hall. Yu Wei asked, Who do you think is suitable to be the clan leader? Yu Pomelo said, I feel that the most suitable person to be the clan leader is Yu Shaoling. We have to thank her this time. Moreover, she is the saintess and was originally the one to take over the clan leader position. Yu Fei said with a smile, I also support her. I believe that she has the ability. Yuli looked at Yu Shaoling and said with a smile, I also think that she is more suitable. Yu Shaoling said seriously, I don't think that I am suitable. Yu Qie is the most suitable candidate to be the clan leader. Hearing this, Yu Qie looked at Yu Shaoling in surprise. Yu Shaoling said, If it wasn't for Yu Qie, our clan would have been finished. We have to thank her this time. It was because of her perseverance and hard work that I believed in her. She has sacrificed too much for our clan. I believe that she is the most suitable candidate. Everyone looked at Yu Shaoling. What Yu Shaoling said was indeed reasonable. Yu Qie said calmly, I am not suitable to be the clan leader. I have never wanted to be the clan leader, nor do I wish to be the clan leader. I feel that you are more capable than me. You are the most suitable clan leader. Yu Shaoling looked at Yu Qie and said, I said before that after everything is settled, I will let you handle it. It was because of me that your husband died. I can do whatever you want to me. Yu Wei was surprised and said, Wasn't her husband that person? What killed him? Everyone looked at the room to the side. It was still very intense, and they could hear it clearly. Yu Qie blushed and said, What do you plan to do? Yu Shaoling asked, What do you plan to do with me now? Yu Qie looked at Yu Shaoling and said seriously, I won't do anything to you. I hope you can be a good leader, but I won't forgive you. You, and you Yen and I Hua. You, and you Hao too. One, you, and you, and one you, for one you, and you, are you, and you. I phone you, Fenghua said. Aren't you afraid that I will be like before? Yu Shaoling smiled and said, I believe that with him around, there won't be any problems. Yu Fenghua blushed and snorted, That stinky man. Yu Shaoling smiled and said, Are you willing to help us, old clan leader? Yu Fenghua nodded. Everyone began to discuss the matter again. After a while, Zhao Fu walked out. Yu Long, who was beside him, had a ruddy complexion and looked weak. Zhao Fu smiled and asked, How did your discussion go? Yu Shaoling smiled and said, We were talking about you. Zhao Fu chuckled and said, What about me? Yu Shaoling looked at Zhao Fu and said, Why didn't you give us the octagonal watermark? Zhao Fu smiled and said, You didn't say you wanted it. Yu Fenghua said, I want you to help our clan with a big favor. Zhao Fu asked with a smile, What favor? Yu Fenghua said, I didn't build a lot of altars in our clan. In addition to the blood sacrifice, there is another use, which is to arrange the octagonal watermark, which is very useful to our clan. Zhao Fu asked curiously, The octagonal watermark? What use does it have? Yu Fenghua said, It can help us cultivate, it can help us increase our strength, and it can also protect our clan. Zhao Fu nodded and said, Sure. Yu Fenghua chuckled and said, After it's done, you won't be lacking in benefits. Zhao Fu smiled and said, there's no need for that. Following that, Zhao Fu followed Yu Fenghua and the others to an altar. This altar was 1,000 meters high, and it was the largest and tallest altar built. It was also the center of the Aqua clan and the center of many altars. According to Yu Fenghua's words, Zhao Fu cut his arm and let out a lot of blood. Each drop was stored in a small bottle. He then sent it to the various altars. Yu Qies said in concern, you've lost so much blood. Do you need to rest? Zhao Fu smiled and said, this is nothing to me. Yu Fenghua said, now follow the method I taught you and use the octagonal watermark. Zhao Fu said, Everyone retreated to the side. Zhao Fu stood at the front by himself and put his palms together. A powerful power spread out from Zhao Fu's body, and he slowly opened his hands. Countless blue lights shined out, and the octagonal watermark appeared at the center of his palms. Boom! A blue wave of light containing powerful power spread out and instantly spread to the entire Aqua clan. The bottles on the altars shattered and drops of blood floated in the air. Water power fused into them, causing the blood to gradually turn blue and give off a blue aura. Zhao Fu released a wave of power from his palms into the octagonal watermark, causing the octagonal watermark to tremble. The blue drops of blood floating in the air instantly entered the altars. Boom! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as countless rays of light containing shocking auras shot into the sky, forming massive pillars of light. The blue light illuminated the surroundings, creating a grand scene. The Aqua Clan's people stared at the pillars of light around them in shock, not knowing what was going on. Their bloodlines started to heat up. The Yuji Clan's people looked at the pillars of light in front of them and the massive auras that continuously flowed over. They looked incredibly shocked, as if they were facing an ocean. Yu Inzi said in shock, this is the Aqua Clan's legendary octagonal watermark. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a massive blue barrier appeared in the sky above the Aquatic Fish Clan. It spread out in all directions, forming a massive blue barrier that covered the entire Aquatic Fish Clan. The Aqua Clan's people within the barrier felt waves of powerful power flow into their bodies, causing their bloodlines to heat up and their constitutions to quickly rise. Standing on the altar, Yu Shaoling and the others felt the power flow into their bodies and looked incredibly shocked. This power was much more powerful than they had expected. Chapter 3248, Book 1, Chapter 192, translated by Hypersheep 325, edited by Mike. Here, Zhao Fu pressed his palms together and once again put away the 8-direction water world. The blue pillars of light also disappeared, and the massive blue barrier also disappeared as if it did not exist. If the Aquatic Fish Clan encountered danger, or if any experts intruded, the 8-direction water world would immediately appear. Normally, it would gather countless amounts of water to help the Aquatic Fish Clan cultivate, giving them a weak 8-direction water world's power. Even though it was weak, it was still very powerful, and through continuous cultivation, they could rely on their own power to condense the 8-direction water seal. Zhao Fu turned to look at the women and smiled as he said, is there anything else? Yu Fenghua smiled as she said, no, with the 8-direction water world, our Aquatic Fish Clan will have protection in the future, and it is only a matter of time before we rise again. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Yu Shaoling smiled as she said, I thank you on behalf of the Aquatic Fish Clan. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, no need to be so polite. At that moment, a guard came up and reported, the elder of the Aquatic Fish Clan wants to see everyone. Yu Fenghua said, they most likely came for the 8-direction water world. Let's go and take a look. Also, Shaoling, you're the clan leader in the future, so I'll leave these matters to you. Yu Shaoling nodded. Everyone returned to the hall. Yu Inzi and 6 people were already waiting. There were 4 men, including Yu Bu's husband, and 2 women. Yu Inzi looked at Yu Fenghua and smiled as she said, congratulations, the Aquatic Fish Clan has rebuilt the 8-direction water world and will definitely rise again in the future. Yu Fenghua said calmly. I'm no longer the clan leader. It's Yu Shaoling. Yu Yinzi was not surprised and looked at Yu Shaoling. Yu Shaoling slightly smiled as she said, Thank you. It's all thanks to your help this time. The friendship between our clans will never change. And if the aquatic fish clan has any difficulties in the future, our aquatic fish clan will immediately rush over. Yu Yinzi smiled in satisfaction as she nodded. She knew that the 8-direction water world had various effects, and the aquatic fish clan would definitely become powerful. She had come this time to see the attitude of the aqua fish clan. Yu Yinzi smiled and said, I heard that someone has refined the 8-directional water world. I wonder who it is? I want to meet him. Zhao Fu smiled and said, Haven't you already met him? Yu Yinzi looked at Zhao Fu and was shocked. It's you. Zhao Fu smiled and said, It's me. Are you surprised? Yu Yinzi glared at Zhao Fu. Only now did she understand that she had been deceived by Zhao Fu. Looking at Zhao Fu's appearance, his relationship with the girls should not be simple. To think that she still believed in Zhao Fu. She even wanted Zhao Fu to be her man so that he would have more contact with other women in the future. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, Patriarch, I'm not sure. I will reward you for helping the water fish clan this time. Yu Yinzi snorted, What reward? Zhao Fu smiled as he said, You won't be disappointed with the reward. Yu Yinzi's face became red as she thought of some scenes. Yu Shaoling smiled as she said, We're about to hold a banquet to celebrate the 8-directional water world. The Patriarch and many elders will be attending. Yu Yinzi smiled and said, That's no problem. Following this, Yu Shaoling gave the order, and the entire water fish clan was sent into an uproar. Everyone was happy about this, and there were scenes of celebration everywhere. They understood that their clan was going to become powerful, and just thinking about it made them feel excited. Yu Yin returned home and said to Yu Shui, Yu, and Yu Mi, Let's go to the water fish clan celebration. Yu Shui smiled and said, Is it to celebrate the 8-directional water world? Yu Yin said, Not just that. Yu Shaoling has become the patriarch of the water fish clan and controls the entire water fish clan. The original patriarch, Yu Fenghua, is now the great elder of the water fish clan. Yumi said in shock, What? Big sis Shaoling has become the patriarch? Yu Shui and Yu were also quite shocked. Yu Yin nodded. This is a good thing for us. Yumi felt quite disappointed. Now that Yu Shaoling had become the patriarch, it was even more impossible for him. Yu Shui and Yu smiled. Yu Shaoling had a very good relationship with them, and it would definitely be beneficial for them if Yu Shaoling became the patriarch. Yu Yin said, That's right. Do you remember the man next to Yu Shaoling? Yu Shui and Yu's faces became slightly red, and Yu said, Yes, why? Yu Yin said seriously, He is now the owner of the 8-directional water world, and he was the one who set it up. Hearing this, Yu Shui and Yu looked quite confused. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would have such an ability. Yu Yin asked curiously, What is it? The two of them quickly shook their heads. Yumi looked at her big sister and mother strangely, and she felt that ever since that day, they had become different. Yu Yin said, Prepare yourselves and come with me to the water fish clan. The three of them nodded in agreement. Zhao Fu sat with the various elders and patriarchs. Everyone was very curious about Zhao Fu's identity and wanted to have a good relationship with Zhao Fu. Now that Zhao Fu was the owner of the 8-directional water world, they would need to rely on Zhao Fu for many things in the future. Facing these people, Zhao Fu dealt with them briefly before glancing at Yu Shui and Yu before walking to the side. After a while, Yu and Yu Shui also left. Behind the wall of the courtyard, Zhao Fu hugged the two of them and smiled as he said, Did you miss me? Yu said somewhat angrily, Not only did you fool us, but you also hid so many things from us. Zhao Fu smiled and said, I'll compensate you now, all right? Yu's eyes were red as she looked at Zhao Fu and nodded. A few hours later, the banquet was over, and Yu Shui and Yu Shui had returned with an octagonal mark on their chests. This required a lot of time to cultivate and condense the 8-directional water seal, but Zhao Fu could casually give it to them. This was the ability to control the 8-directional water world and the gap between geniuses and ordinary people. After returning to the room, Yu Shaoling walked in and smiled at Zhao Fu, saying, "Come with me." Zhao Fu chuckled. "What's the matter?" Yu Shaoling smiled and said, "I want to give you a surprise." Hearing this, Zhao Fu chuckled and followed Yu Shaoling to the main hall. He found that there were already many women here. They were all good-looking, had good figures, and had different temperaments. Apart from the many elders, Yu Fenghua, Yu Leng, and Yu Qie were also here. Yu Shaoling said with a smile, "There are more than 300 women here, all of whom were carefully selected by us from the Aquafish clan. Didn't we say that we would reward you? This is the reward." The women knew that Zhao Fu was important and were very grateful to Zhao Fu. Some looked at Zhao Fu with smiles, some looked at Zhao Fu with anticipation, and some seemed to like Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu chuckled and walked towards the women. A few days later, Zhao Fu hugged Yu Fenghua in his arms and said, "I have something to ask you." Chapter 3249. Book 1, Zhao Fu. Yu Fenghua lay in Zhao Fu's embrace and said lazily, "What is it?" Zhao Fu said, "I want to ask where your race obtained the 8-direction water world, and where can I find other water worlds?" Yu Fenghua looked at Zhao Fu and said, "It seems that you plan on collecting all of the 8-direction water worlds." Zhao Fu nodded. Yu Qie smiled and said, "He's a heaven-awakened son, and he came to the water domain to awaken the last water race Emperor Star." Hearing this, all of the women present looked shocked and felt as if their minds had been hit by a massive force. Their minds went blank and their bodies started to tremble. Heaven-awakened son? Yu Fenghua looked at Zhao Fu's shocked expression. There was nothing she could do. Zhao Fu's reputation was just that terrifying. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I am a heaven-awakened son." Yu Fenghua had not calmed down yet, and her heart was beating very quickly. "No wonder you have such perfect looks and can make the 8-direction water world recognize you as its master. You should be its master, the chosen of the heavens." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "All right, I want to know about the 8-direction water world." Yu Fenghua smiled and said, "No problem, I'll tell you now." The women came back to their senses and smiled as they looked at Zhao Fu, feeling incredibly happy. To be Zhao Fu's women, they felt incredibly lucky. Yu Fenghua smiled as she said, "The 8-direction water world is a supreme treasure that was born with the water domain. It was originally spread out in 24 directions and suppressed the entire water domain, allowing the water domain's fate and spirit chi to flow in an orderly manner. This was the golden age of our water race. During that era, not only did we have countless experts, but we also had countless natural treasures, and we were ranked in the top 3 out of the 8 major races." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt that every race had their most glorious era, but they all declined afterwards. Zhao Fu said, "And then? What happened?" Yu Fenghua said, "Later on, an extraordinary person appeared. Using some unknown method, he stole a water world from all directions. This caused the power to lose balance. The entire water realm was turned upside down, the sun and moon reversed, and the spirit chi became chaotic. The other 8 water worlds were sent flying in different directions. Our water clan's ancestor was also a world-shaking expert at that time. He was lucky enough to obtain one of them. Later, he brought it back to our water fish clan and worshipped it for generations. Thus, the 8 water worlds were influenced by our clan." Zhao Fu asked curiously, "Is it hard to find where the water world is in the beginning? Why did it take so long for someone to get it?" Yu Fenghua said, At that time, the 24 water worlds in all directions formed 24 life forbidden zones. There were no living creatures in those zones." Zhao Fu nodded and smiled as he said, "From what I see now, I don't need any children." Yu Qie's face became red as she said, "I feel that having children is very good." "What do you mean you don't need?" "It's a pity that I can't fulfill the conditions." Zhao Fu looked at her and smiled, understanding what she was thinking. After all, she was a mother, and her son was still waiting for her in the human domain. Yu Shaoling was also somewhat disappointed as she said, I can't satisfy it either. Yu Fenghua smiled as she said, if that's not possible, then forget it. I want you to help me with something else. Zhao Fu looked at Yu Fenghua and said, what is it? Yu Fenghua smiled as she said, you're good at this. So let's bring disaster to the Yuji clan and make our clans closer so that there won't be any conflicts or disputes in the future. I'm also thinking about our future. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, no, I'm a righteous man and won't do such a lowly thing. Yu Fenghua and the other women rolled their eyes at Zhao Fu. Yu Shaoling hit Zhao Fu and said coquettishly, you're a despicable and lowly person. Zhao Fu chuckled as he said, if you say that, then I won't go. Yu Shaoling lightly harumphed. If you don't want to go, then don't go. If anything happens between our clans in the future, it'll all be your fault. Zhao Fu did not want this to happen either, so he smiled and said, all right, I'll go. Yu Shaoling gave a trace of smile. Chapter 3250. Book 1, Chapter 194. Seeing Zhao Fu walk over, Yu Inzi smiled. Zhao Fu had the octagonal crystal, and her clan could benefit greatly from it. Zhao Fu smiled and said, did you miss me after not seeing me for a few days? Yu Inzi blushed and said, yes, and I also want the octagonal watermark. She had already heard about the octagonal watermark from Yu Shui and her daughter. At first, she had thought that the octagonal watermark could only be given to people from the Aqua clan, and she had never thought that it could be given to people from her clan. Zhao Fu smiled and said, no problem. A few hours later, Yu Inzi looked at the octagonal watermark on her chest with satisfaction and felt the power it had given her. Yu Inzi asked, how much more can you give? Zhao Fu thought about it and said, I can give quite a bit, but I can't give too much at once, or it will affect the octagonal watermark. Yu Inzi nodded and said with a smile, I want you to do me a favor. Zhao Fu asked, what is it? Yu Inzi smiled and said, I also want you to give some of the octagonal watermark to others. Zhao Fu smiled and said, what's in it for me? Yu Inzi rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu and said, you still want benefits? Isn't that a good thing? Zhao Fu smiled shamelessly and said, look, I've given up a lot of power and physical strength. Don't you think I'm at a disadvantage? Yu Inzi said, all right, I'll give you some benefits. Zhao Fu smiled and said, all right, I'll be going then. Yu Inzi nodded. After leaving the palace, Zhao Fu walked toward the building. It was a training field, and the ground was made of wooden planks. It was hundreds of square meters, and Yu Inzi's daughter, Yumi, was seriously competing with 6 female guards. Yuro had been very unhappy about losing to Yu Shaoling, but she had never thought that Yu Shaoling would become the clan leader, and her status would change greatly. Yuro just wanted to become stronger and not lose to Yu Shaoling. Zhao Fu walked in. Yu Hui stopped and frowned. What are you doing here? Yu Luo knew about Zhao Fu, and she also knew that Zhao Fu had the water world of 8 sides. She had also heard some stories about this man and her mother. As for Zhao Fu, she did not like him at all. Zhao Fu smiled and said, your mother asked me to come. Yu Hu said coldly, why did my mother send you here? Zhao Fu smiled and said, I shall bestow upon you great power. Yu Hu snorted coldly, go back. I don't need you to bestow me with power. I can rely on myself to become stronger. Zhao Fu chuckled, are you sure? Yu Hu said, of course I'm sure. Zhao Fu said with a smile, my strength is something that you can cultivate for your entire life. Even if you cultivate 10 times your strength, you will still not be able to reach the height of my strength. Yu looked at Zhao Fu. Don't exaggerate. Zhao Fu said with a smile, I'm not exaggerating. This power is so powerful that you've missed the biggest opportunity. Yu Hu snorted coldly. I don't believe it. Zhao Fu chuckled and said, then you can try. You asked how. Zhao Fu smiled confidently as he said, use 10 times your strength, and I'll only use a bit. If you can win with your strength, I'll immediately admit defeat and apologize to you. If you lose, you'll have to behave. Yu said, okay, I promise you. Yu Hu stretched out a hand, and a huge force gathered in front of her palm, forming a blue ball of light the size of a watermelon. It exuded a huge pressure. Yumi pushed her hand, and the blue ball of light floated toward Subai. Zhao Fu stood in place and tapped his finger lightly. A spot of blue light flew lightly toward the ball of light. The two slowly collided. The small spot of light easily penetrated the ball of light, and the blue ball of light collapsed instantly. The small spot of light dispersed, and a world-like pressure fell on everyone's bodies. This made the women feel their bodies sink. Countless water surged toward them, pressing them into the depths of the water. Even though they were water creatures, they still felt suffocated. The pressure dissipated, and Yu-Hu and the others came back to their senses, soaked in sweat. Yu-Hu asked solemnly, "Is this the power of the Eight Sides water world?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Yes, this is the power of the Eight Sides water world, which is also the strongest power of the water creatures. Don't you want it now? Then I'm leaving. I won't give it to you even if you want it in the future. This time, I'm doing it for my mother's sake." Yu quickly said, "Wait, I want this power." Zhao Fu chuckled. "Didn't you just say that you don't want it?" Yu felt somewhat embarrassed. She had never thought that the power of the Eight Sides water world would be so powerful, and that Zhao Fu was willing to give it to her. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "All right, come here." Yu walked up to Zhao Fu and looked at Zhao Fu. "What should I do next?" Zhao Fu gave a mischievous smile. A few hours later, Yuhu's face was rosy, and she helplessly rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. Beside her were female guards, who also blushed with joy. Yu had obtained the water seal of the Eight Sides. Although the female guards had not obtained it, they had obtained a large amount of the power of the Eight Sides water world. This power was almost impossible for them to obtain, and it was of great help to them. At this moment, they were very grateful to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I'm leaving." Yumi said bitterly, "I've given you my virginity. Can't you stay with me for a while? Do you want to go back to see you Shaoling again?" Zhao Fu chuckled and said, "No, are you jealous?" Yu lightly snorted and said, "I don't want to lose to her." Zhao Fu explained, "I have to go to other places. It was your mother's request." Yumi's face turned red and said, "Then my mother asked you to treat me like this?" Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. "Rest for a while, then go to your mother's place. I'll go there later." Yu knew that Zhao Fu was up to no good and glared at Zhao Fu and said, "I'm not going." Zhao Fu chuckled and said, "Do whatever you want." Yumi looked at Zhao Fu's departing figure. Lying on the ground, Yumi thought of this matter and revealed a smile. By this time, Zhao Fu had arrived near a lake. Under the setting sun, there were already a few women waiting here. Zhao Fu was a little surprised and said, "You're not the only one? Why are there four people?" A gentle-looking woman in a red dress was called Yu-E, and she was one of the two elders who had gone to the Waterfish clan. Yu-Enzi had already told her about this matter, and Yu-E and Zhao Fu had come along. However, they had met her three good sisters, and under their questioning, Yu-E had accidentally revealed this matter. A seductive woman in a pink dress was called Yu-Bu, and she said flirtatiously, "Don't be so stingy." Zhao Fu lightly laughed and said, "I just find it a bit strange." A cold-looking woman in a white dress was called Yunnan, and she asked, "Can you really give the 8-directional water seal to our Yu clan? Isn't that the Waterfish clan's sacred item?" Chapter 3251 Book 1 Chapter 195 Translated by Hypersheep 325 Edited by Mike. Here Zhao Fu smiled as he explained, "The water world will be affected by the water fish race, but it belongs to the water race, so you can also obtain this power." A graceful, quiet, and beautiful woman named Yu Shu said with a red face, "I heard that in order to obtain this power, I have to do that with you. Is that true?" Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. "If you're not willing, I won't force you." Yu Shu said with a red face, We all have husbands and can't do that with you." He said shyly, "I already told you that I came because of the chief's orders, which will strengthen us. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come here behind my husband's back, so you should all go back." Yubo lightly laughed It's just a man. What's so important about finding one? This is the water world's power, and it's the water race's most powerful power. If I miss it, I won't have it again. I'm staying anyway. Yunin said, I won't go either. Only by grasping great power can I control my own fate. Moreover, I've never liked a dog. Yushu looked at the three of them in surprise. She said with a red face, Then I'll go back by myself. Yubo looked at Yushu and said, You can't go back. What if news of this gets out? Yushu said, I won't tell anyone. Yubo smiled as she said, You don't have to participate. You can just watch from the side and go back with us later. Yushu thought about it and nodded. Yubo looked at Zhao Fu and said flirtatiously, Let's begin. At night, the women nestled in Zhao Fu's embrace and looked at the sky formed by water. They were still underwater, but there was a power separating them from the water. If they wanted to see the stars and moon, they would have to swim to the surface of the water. Yushu lay by the side with a red face. She did not want to participate at first, but she could not help but join in. She had to admit that Zhao Fu's charm was too great. Yubo hugged Zhao Fu and affectionately called out, Good husband, can you be my man in the future? Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Yubo said happily, That's great. I really like you. I feel like I've always been with you and always served you. Zhao Fu said with a smile, Feel the power in your body. Yunnan said, I've already sensed it. This power is beyond our imagination, and I have to thank you for giving us this power. In the future, if you want, I can also serve you. Yui blushed and said, Thank you too. I don't want to get a divorce for now, but I can be your lover. Can you also give me some time to separate from my man? Zhao Fu smiled and nodded, then looked at Yushu. What else do you have to say? If not, I'm leaving. Yushu blushed and shook her head. She was also thinking about what to do in the future. She didn't know why, but she clearly liked this bad guy, Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu left and came to another courtyard. A woman in colorful clothes, who was not bad-looking but looked a bit strange, was standing in the courtyard. Her name was Yuin, and she was also an elder who had been to the Water Fish clan before. Yuin glanced at Zhao Fu. Why did you only come now? Zhao Fu stepped forward and hugged her, as if they were already very familiar with each other, and said, I was delayed by some things. Yuin did not refuse and said, Let's get started. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Is this the power of the water world? Yuin had already sat cross-legged, and there was a ball of light in front of her, emitting a very powerful power. Zhao Fu looked at her and said with a smile, But you don't look very surprised, right? Yuin looked at Zhao Fu. What's there to be surprised about? Isn't it normal for the water world to have such power? Zhao Fu chuckled. You're right. Yuin looked at Zhao Fu and asked, You should have played with a lot of women. What do you think of me? Zhao Fu said with a smile, Not bad. Yuin said, Then I have nothing else to do. You can leave. Zhao Fu looked a little embarrassed. This was the first time he had been asked to leave. He looked at Yuin and asked, You don't like me? Yuin replied, No, I was very happy today, but that's just how I am. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. I'm leaving. Yuin said, Okay. Zhao Fu returned to Yuinzi's hall. Yuinzi and Yumi were already waiting for Zhao Fu. Seeing Yumi come, Zhao Fu smiled. Yumi blushed slightly and explained, I didn't want to come. My mother asked me to come. Zhao Fu said with a smile, I see. Yuinzi looked at Zhao Fu and said, If it weren't for the power of the water world, I wouldn't have given my daughter to you. Zhao Fu chuckled and said, Got it. Following this, Zhao Fu hugged the mother and daughter and sat on the chair above. This was a chair that only the chief was qualified to sit on. Yuinzi sat in Zhao Fu's arms and said, Did the Water Fish clan ask you to come? Zhao Fu said with a smile, So you knew? Yuinzi said, I'm not stupid, and I'm willing. This is beneficial to both of us. Zhao Fu said with a smile, It's not all because of them. Actually, I quite like you and your daughter. Yuinzi and Yumi blushed. Yumi said coquettishly, The first time you saw me, you bad guy, already had your eyes on me? Zhao Fu nodded. You're so tempting. Which man wouldn't be moved? Yumi smiled and felt very sweet in her heart. Yu Yinzi was an experienced person, and seeing how Zhao Fu had charmed her daughter with his flowery words, she said, "All right, I want to know your next plans." Zhao Fu said with a smile, "I'm going to collect information from the other water worlds. If there's any news, I'll leave this place." Yu Yinzi looked at Zhao Fu in surprise. "You want to collect all the water worlds in the 8 directions?" Zhao Fu replied, "That's right." Yu Yinzi said with a smile, "I believe you. I also want my man to become the ruler of the water clan, so I'll help you collect information." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Thank you." Yumi hugged Zhao Fu and said, "Can you take me with you?" Zhao Fu shook his head. "You're too weak right now, so it's best if you stay here." Yumi felt a bit disappointed, but she understood how big the gap between her and Zhao Fu was. Yu Yinzi said with a smile, "Daughter, he's right. Also, you've just obtained the power of the water world in the 8 directions and haven't fully fused with it yet. You need to properly cultivate, and I believe that your power will greatly increase." Yumi nodded. Yu Yinzi looked at Zhao Fu with a hint of charm. "We'll give you the reward we agreed on before." Zhao Fu chuckled. Chapter 3252. Book 1. Chapter 196. The Third Day. Yu Fenghua got the news of the water world of the 8 sides. Many people fought for the water world of the 8 sides in the past and accidentally fell into the water abyss. The water abyss referred to the abyss under the water. Apart from land, there were also abysses in the water. These abysses were even scarier than the abysses on land. Not only were they pitch black, but they were also deeper than the abysses on land. Legend had it that some abysses were connected to the underworld below, and one could directly enter the underworld from the abyss. There were also some terrifying ghosts that came out from the abyss. There was also water all around, and any small movement would cause quite a commotion. People with poor mental endurance might go crazy and collapse. Some terrifying monsters in the water preferred to stay in the abyss, which increased the danger of the abyss. People in the water generally didn't want to enter the abyss, and if they encountered it, they would try to avoid it. There were a total of 18 famous water abysses in the water domain. The 8 directions water world fell into one of them. That water abyss was called the Blade Shark Water Abyss. Back then, many people entered the Blade Shark Water Abyss, but most of them were inside. According to the people who escaped, the water world might have fallen into the depths of the abyss. Yu Fenghua looked at Zhao Fu and asked, "It's so dangerous. Do you still want to go?" Zhao Fu nodded seriously. "No matter how dangerous it is, I will go." Yu Fenghua said, "Be careful. We can't help you with anything." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Well, no need." Yu Fenghua continued to ask, "When are you leaving?" Zhao Fu said with a smile, "Get ready." Yu Fenghua said in surprise, "So fast?" Zhao Fu said with a smile, "This place is a little far from the Blade Shark's territory. I need to hurry up." Yu Fenghua said, "Wait a minute, I'll talk to the others." Zhao Fu nodded. When the women heard that Zhao Fu was about to leave, they all rushed over with reluctance on their faces. Although they had only known each other for a few days, they were all very close. Yu Shaoling said with concern, "Be careful on the road." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Yu Chia blushed. "Are you sure you don't want someone else to go with you?" Zhao Fu replied, "Well, it's inconvenient to have too many people. Do you want to stay with the water tribe or return to the sect to find your son?" Yu Chia thought for a moment. "I want to bring my son to the water tribe. This is his home, and he won't be rejected because of his appearance." Zhao Fu said, "Okay, if you have any problems, you can find Yu Shaoling. If you can't solve it, then wait for me to come back." Yu Chia nodded with a smile. After making his preparations, Zhao Fu left the place and flew towards the Blade Shark Water Abyss. After traveling for 2 days, Zhao Fu arrived at the Blade Shark Water Abysses. He did not know how wide or long the abysses were, and he could not see the end of them. Zhao Fu was currently in the water, and he released a defensive barrier to keep the water out. Standing at the edge of the Blade Shark Abyss and looking at the pitch-black darkness below, Xiao Chun felt a sense of horror. Zhao Fu did not rashly go down. Instead, he went to a nearby city. After all, So many years had passed, so perhaps something had happened. In the restaurant, Zhao Fu ordered a table of food and wine. As he ate, he asked the innkeeper, "I heard that an omniscient water world fell into the blade shark water abyss. Is that true?" The innkeeper was a middle-aged man with a mustache. He smiled and said, "It's true. Many people have been coming here to obtain the omniscient water world, but most of them have never returned. Customer, are you also here for it?" Zhao Fu nodded. The innkeeper reminded him, "This blade shark water abyss is very dangerous. I advise you not to go in." Zhao Fu asked, "What dangers are there?" The innkeeper replied, "I only know a little, but I'm not very clear. If you go into the blade shark water abyss, you will immediately be attacked by a group of blade sharks. These blade sharks are extremely savage and fast. Most people die at their hands." Zhao Fu nodded. The omniscient water world should still be in the depths of the abyss. No one has obtained it yet, right? The innkeeper nodded. "I can guarantee that no one has obtained it. It seems that not many people have entered the depths of the abyss." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt more at ease. He did not want the omniscient water world to be taken away by someone else after going through so much trouble. Zhao Fu continued to ask, "Did anything big happen nearby?" "Big?" The innkeeper thought about it and said, "We rarely have people coming here, so nothing big seems to have happened. However, I'm not sure about other places." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. He took out a bag of money and threw it to the innkeeper. "This is for your revenge." The innkeeper caught the bag of money and felt its weight. He smiled and quickly said, "Thank you, customer, for your tip." After eating, Zhao Fu went to other places to collect information, but did not obtain any useful information. It was more or less the same as what the innkeeper had said. In the end, Zhao Fu once again came to the side of the abyss. He looked down at the abyss and flew down. Zhao Fu continued to descend, and his surroundings soon fell into darkness. He could not see anything. Zhao Fu did not use any light to illuminate his surroundings. In this kind of dark environment, using light to illuminate would undoubtedly attract a lot of danger. This darkness was not a problem for Zhao Fu because Zhao Fu's eyes also had night vision. His body continued to descend. After an unknown amount of time, a huge figure quickly attacked Zhao Fu. It was a 5-meter-long shark with pale skin, a mouth full of sharp teeth, pure black eyes, and a back with blade-like fins. This was the blade shark that the innkeeper had mentioned. It was said that there were many of them, but only one was attacking Zhao Fu. The other blade sharks should not have discovered him yet. Zhao Fu did not plan to attack, because attacking would definitely attract a large number of blade sharks. Zhao Fu had originally planned to hide and avoid the blade shark's attack, but Zhao Fu thought of the water world and wanted to use its power. The blade shark quickly swam toward Zhao Fu, while Zhao Fu stood still. The blade shark quickly swam in front of Zhao Fu, opened its mouth, and ferociously bit toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and a blue wave of light instantly spread out. The blade shark was blocked by this wave of power, and a huge wave of power entered its body. A wave of fear welled up in its heart, and it seemed that this blade shark had never shown fear before. The blade shark emitted a blue light, and its expression became docile. It did not attack Zhao Fu, and even treated Zhao Fu as a supreme existence. The water world could not only increase power, but it also had the ability to control and suppress aquatic creatures. Right now, Zhao Fu was only using his power to suppress the blade shark. Looking at the blade shark in front of him, Zhao Fu smiled. He immediately climbed onto the blade shark's body, planning to use it to go deeper into the abyss. Chapter 3253. Book 1, Chapter 197. The saber shark brought Zhao Fu downstream at an extremely fast speed. They met a few saber sharks along the way, but they did not attack Zhao Fu. He continued to swim downstream. At this moment, Zhao Fu hid his aura because there was a large group of saber sharks below him. There were tens of thousands of them, and the aura they gave off was extremely terrifying. These saber sharks didn't notice Zhao Fu either. Zhao Fu ordered the blade shark to continue swimming downstream. Zhao Fu safely dodged the large group of blade sharks and came to a lower position. There seemed to be fewer blade sharks here. He swam a little further downstream. At this depth, there were almost no saber sharks here. The surroundings seemed to be even darker and quieter, making people feel even more afraid. The saber shark slowly stopped, and Zhao Fu could sense that it was afraid. Zhao Fu guessed that there must be something at this depth that made the blade sharks not dare to come close. Zhao Fu came down from the blade shark's back and waved his hand, sending the blade shark back. This saber shark was afraid that it would disappear as fast as it could. Zhao Fu looked down, and his expression became serious as he continued to swim downwards. Shio, shio, shio. Not long after, large blades made of water slashed at Zhao Fu from all directions, as if they wanted to chop Zhao Fu into minced meat. Zhao Fu hurriedly released a defensive barrier to protect himself. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of water splashing could be heard as the many water blades suddenly struck the defensive barrier, and a shocking aura spread out. Although Zhao Fu's defensive barrier was able to block all the water blades, it wouldn't be able to hold out for long. It seemed as though the water blades wouldn't stop anytime soon. Bang! Another water blade slashed at Zhao Fu's barrier, causing Zhao Fu's barrier to crack. Zhao Fu had no choice but to swim up. After leaving that area, Zhao Fu was no longer attacked. Zhao Fu did not understand what was going on. Why were there so many water blades attacking him? This should be the reason why the blade sharks were afraid of this place. When they entered this area, they would also be attacked. It was as if the water blades attacked indiscriminately, and the saber sharks were instantly chopped into countless pieces of meat. They slowly started to fear this area, and soon, not a single saber shark dared to come here. Many people who entered the water abyss to search for the water world of the 8 directions were probably blocked here and eventually retreated. Zhao Fu did not want to go back. After thinking for a while, he decided to use the evil immortal's power. A blood-red aura rose up from Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu's body gradually disappeared. Zhao Fu planned to merge himself into the water and swim downstream. This time, he most likely would not be attacked, as water would not attack water. This kind of ability was quite difficult for mighty figures to discover, so Zhao Fu was quite confident. Zhao Fu transformed into water and slowly flowed downwards. There did not seem to be any changes in his surroundings, and he could not see or feel the water flowing. However, just as Zhao Fu reached that area, water quickly condensed and slashed at Zhao Fu, seeming to destroy everything. Seeing this, Zhao Fu quickly retreated and reformed his body. Looking down, Zhao Fu frowned. He had never thought that this method would not work. Even after turning into water, he was still being attacked. What was the problem? Zhao Fu could not figure it out. In the end, Zhao Fu turned his attention to the water world of the 8 directions. This was the only thing he could rely on, and it might be the only useful thing. Boom! A muffled explosion rang out as the water world of the 8 directions within Zhao Fu's body gave off a blue light, and a massive power covered the surroundings. Zhao Fu's body gave off a blue light, and he once again swam downwards. Just like before, the water blades chaotically hacked towards Zhao Fu, seeming as if they wanted to destroy everything. Seeing that the water world of the 8 directions seemed to be useless, Zhao Fu planned to retreat. At that moment, the blue light that Zhao Fu's body gave off shone on the water blades, causing them to collapse. The water world of the 8 directions worked. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised at first, and he smiled. However, soon, even more water blades containing even more terrifying power slashed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu immediately gave off an even brighter blue light. Most of the water blades directly collapsed upon being hit by the blue light, but a small portion continued to shoot toward Zhao Fu, and their power was greatly weakened by the blue light. Zhao Fu casually waved his hand and easily destroyed the water blades. Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. Even though it was very dangerous to give off light in a dark environment, Zhao Fu could only do this because there was no other way. Giving off a bright blue light, Zhao Fu's body slowly descended. Many water blades quickly condensed and slashed towards Zhao Fu with great power. The blue light that Zhao Fu's body gave off destroyed most of the water blades, while Zhao Fu dealt with a small portion himself. As Zhao Fu's body continued to descend, the power of the condensed water blades became stronger and stronger. Originally, the blue light that Zhao Fu gave off could destroy most of the water blades, but now it could only destroy a small portion, and the majority had to be destroyed by Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu held his sword in one hand and frowned as he looked down. I wonder how long it will take to pass this level, or if this level reaches the depths of the water abyss. If that's the case, I definitely can't continue like this. Right now, even with the water world of the 8 directions, Zhao Fu was struggling. If this continued, the water world of the 8 directions might not be able to hold on. Zhao Fu continued to descend. Boom! Boom! The 100-meter-long water blades gave off an aura that seemed to be able to split apart mountains as they slashed toward Zhao Fu. The scene was incredibly terrifying, and it seemed as if everything was about to be destroyed. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu activated the water world of the 8 directions with all of his strength. Countless rays of piercing blue light shot out from Zhao Fu's body, destroying many of the water blades, but many of them shot toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu immediately swung his sword, sending out sword lights that slashed apart the incoming water blades. Boom! Countless traces of water gathered, forming a 1,000-meter-long water blade that gave off an aura that seemed to be able to split apart the heavens and earth. It quickly slashed towards Zhao Fu, and the water on both sides was split apart by that power. Zhao Fu used his sword to block, but was still sent flying. A gash appeared on his arm, and blood flowed out from the wound. The water quickly condensed into new water blades and shot toward Zhao Fu. A furious look appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he slashed at the water blade with all of his strength. The flying sword lights inundated the massive water blade, causing it to collapse into countless traces of water. However, more water blades were quickly condensed and flew toward Zhao Fu. There were not as many as before, but they were even more dangerous. Each water blade was incredibly powerful, and ordinary people definitely would not be able to block them. Zhao Fu could only attack the water blades with all of his strength as his body slowly descended. The process was incredibly difficult, and he did not know when he would reach the bottom. Chapter 3254. Book 1. Chapter 198. 2 hours later. Zhao Fu's body continued to fall. He had already suffered some injuries and had consumed a lot of his strength. However, Zhao Fu still could not see the bottom. Zhao Fu wanted to give up on this matter and needed other methods. Hua hua hua. At this time, it was no longer just one water blade. Instead, countless water blades formed a huge whirlpool of water blades. The waves it emitted were incomparably terrifying, as if they could crush everything. Zhao Fu had already condensed the power of the water world in all directions into a defensive barrier. If it was the previous 3 blue lights, it might not have been able to block this water blade vortex. Bang, bang, bang. Countless water blades slashed at the defensive barrier. They were extremely ferocious and terrifying, enough to make people's legs turn to jelly. Zhao Fu didn't have the strength to attack either. He focused on defense. The blue barrier trembled under the attack, and cracks gradually appeared on it. It barely managed to block the whirlpool of water blades. As they continued to sink, the whirlpool of water blades became even more ferocious, and the blue barrier trembled even more violently. Zhao Fu's expression turned ugly. Boom! An even more ferocious force stirred up, and a small opening appeared on the blue barrier. A sharp stream of water quickly flowed in, turning into a small knife and stabbing towards Zhao Fu's chest. At that moment of danger, Zhao Fu's left eye shot out a blood-red sword chi, destroying the small knife. He immediately sent a wave of energy into the water world, causing it to give off a blue light and quickly repair the hole in the barrier. Bang, bang, bang. That water blade vortex didn't seem to be weakening at all. Instead, it stirred the blue barrier even more violently. It definitely couldn't go on like this. Zhao Fu's expression was ugly as he pondered. Bang! Before Zhao Fu could think for long, a powerful force shattered the blue shield, and countless water blades slashed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu immediately turned his body into nothingness, and an octagonal blue crystal appeared. At this time, Zhao Fu had already fused with the 8-dimensional water world. Boom! An unparalleled power erupted from the water world in all directions, and the countless water blades slashing down from all directions were destroyed by this power. After using this power, the light that the water world gave off dimmed. It had used up a large amount of power. If this continued, the 8-sided water world's power would be temporarily consumed, and it would take some time to recover. The 8-sided water world was incredibly tough and could not be destroyed by the water blades. However, Zhao Fu would not be able to block these attacks. Now that the water blades had been destroyed by the power, they had not been used again. Zhao Fu controlled the water world to descend rapidly. After breaking through the countless water blades, he seemed to have arrived at a new area. The countless water blades had already disappeared, and the surroundings were still pitch black. There was no sound at all, and it seemed to be even scarier than before. Zhao Fu returned to his human form and became more cautious. He first looked around before continuing to descend deeper into the water. Time passed slowly, and no one knew how much time had passed. Suddenly, Zhao Fu was blocked by a barrier. This was a water barrier, and it did not seem to have been set up by someone. Instead, it seemed to have been formed naturally and contained a massive amount of water power. Zhao Fu was unable to break through this barrier, but Zhao Fu had other methods. Zhao Fu's body once again turned into nothingness. Zhao Fu was going to use the evil celestial's heaven and earth fusion ability to fuse with this barrier. He planned to create a hole and enter through this hole. It was unknown just how big this barrier was, and it would take countless years to completely fuse with it. Fusing with this small region was quite difficult. Zhao Fu felt as if he had encountered a smooth metal wall, and Zhao Fu did not know where to start. As he got closer, he was blocked and unable to fuse with it. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu first turned a portion of his power into countless tiny insects. These insects were densely packed, but they could not be seen with the naked eye. They attached themselves to the barrier and started to gnaw at it. After an hour, they had gnawed out countless tiny dots. These dots were so small that they could not be seen. Zhao Fu continued to fuse with it, and his power flowed into the barrier through these tiny dots. The process was not very complicated, and even though it was quite difficult, he slowly fused with it. After about a day, Zhao Fu finally fused with the barrier. He passed through the barrier. The scene before him was quite shocking, because the world behind the barrier was completely bright and there was no darkness at all. It was hard to imagine that the world above the barrier was a terrifying darkness. There were many plants growing on the ground. There were tall trees, beautiful flowers, and colorful water grasses. They were filled with life, and they did not seem much different from the water above. The 8 directions water world should have fallen here, and Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. In order to enter this place, he had put in a lot of effort. Zhao Fu planned to fly down and start to search for the 8 directions water world. A figure appeared in front of Zhao Fu. It was a woman with pale skin and a knife-like fin on her back. She had a fiery figure, and her palms and feet were like frog paws. Her eyes were pitch black, and she had a mouth full of sharp teeth. The important parts of her body were covered with shells and water grasses, and she looked quite fierce. When the woman saw Zhao Fu, she looked shocked because no one had ever come here before. Zhao Fu looked at this woman curiously. He had never thought that he would meet the water race in the depths of the water abyss, and this woman seemed to be related to the saber sharks above. The woman started to speak in a gibberish. This was not an ordinary language of the water race, but a very ancient language. Zhao Fu used his mind to understand what it meant. "Who are you? Why did you appear here?" Zhao Fu revealed a trace of a smile and said in his mind, "I came for the 8 directions water world. Do you know where it is?" The woman said, "What is the 8 directions water world?" Seeing that she did not seem to know, Zhao Fu asked. Are you the only one here, or are there many people? The woman replied, I can't tell you. I'm going to take you back to see the chief. Before Zhao Fu could reply, the woman gave off a powerful aura and grabbed towards Zhao Fu with one hand. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and grabbed the woman's hand before hugging her and swimming downwards. The woman vigorously struggled and said, What do you want to do? Zhao Fu smiled and said, What do you think? The woman said angrily, This is our Saber Shark clan's territory. If you dare to do anything to me, you'll definitely die here. I advise you to follow me back to see the chief. Zhao Fu laughed and said, I'm not afraid at all. As Zhao Fu spoke, he pressed the woman against the water grasses and ravaged her while asking her for information. Chapter 3255. Book 1, Chapter 199. Zhao Fu asked, Where is your clan? The woman glared at Zhao Fu and said, I won't tell you. Zhao Fu lightly smiled and continued to ravage her as he asked again, Where is your clan? The woman could not resist anymore and said, It's not too far ahead. Zhao Fu said with a satisfied smile, How powerful is your clan leader? The woman replied, Extremely powerful. Zhao Fu continued to ask, How powerful is extremely powerful? What is his cultivation level? The woman said, I don't know what cultivation level you're talking about. Zhao Fu saw that this place had been cut off from the rest of the world for too long and was completely separated from the rest of the world. He had just asked about the 8-direction water world, but it was possible that she did not know what it was. Zhao Fu would have to go and see for himself. 2 hours later, Zhao Fu smiled and said to the woman, Can you let go of me now? The woman's face became red and she glared at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu put on his clothes and asked, What's your name? The woman replied, I'm Dao Lu. Zhao Fu smiled and said, I'll go back with you now. Hearing this, Dao Lu looked at Zhao Fu and said, If you dare to go back with me, aren't you afraid of being killed by my clansmen? Zhao Fu lightly laughed and said, What's there to be afraid of? Dao Lu coldly harumphed and said, Don't regret this. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile, and his body started to change. His skin became pale, and a blade-like aura grew out of his back. His eyes also became jet black, and he gave off the same aura as Dao Lu. Dao Lu looked at Zhao Fu in confusion. Now, Zhao Fu had completely become a member of the Saber Shark clan. How did you do it? Zhao Fu smiled confidently and said, This is my ability. Zhao Fu's evil immortal bloodline allowed him to turn into any creature as long as he had the blood of a creature. Just now, Zhao Fu had absorbed Dao Lu's blood, and now he could become a member of the Saber Shark race. Dao Lu smiled and said, All right, let's go back. Zhao Fu looked at Dao Lu strangely. Why did her attitude change so quickly? Thinking that there shouldn't be a problem, Zhang Xian nodded. The two of them walked in the same direction. The two of them arrived in front of a village. There were 2 women guarding the door, and when they saw Zhao Fu beside Dao Lu, their eyes widened before running back in delight. Zhao Fu had a strange look on his face. Why was he so happy to see him? After that, more than 300 people walked out of the village. What was surprising was that they were all women. There was not a single man, not a single boy, and not a single girl. Their figures were all very good, and their appearances were different. The leader was a beautiful woman with a fiery figure and looked somewhat ferocious looking. She gave off the aura of a higher being. Zhao Fu felt that something was wrong and immediately wanted to turn around and run. Dao Lu held onto Zhao Fu and said with a smile, Aren't you afraid? Why are you running? Zhao Fu calmed down. Even if he ran, he would not be able to escape, so he could only stay. Moreover, it seemed that they did not intend to harm Zhao Fu. The women gathered around him. The beautiful woman, who was the chief, was called Saber Master, and she happily smiled as she said, Dao Lu, where did you find him? Dao Lu looked at Zhao Fu and smiled as she said, I found him by accident. Saber Master looked at Zhao Fu and said, I never thought that there would be a man. I haven't seen a man in almost 200 years. He's our race's treasure. It turned out that the saber shark race had been isolated here for countless years, and after countless years of reproduction, it became difficult for them to reproduce. Gradually, their numbers decreased, and only a small portion of the women survived while the rest of the men died. The saber shark race grew quite slowly, and everyone present was at least 200 years old. As such, there were no children, and they were all adult women. Everyone had thought that men had gone extinct, and they had never thought that Dao Lu would bring one back. This was why they were so happy. Saber Master smiled as she asked, "Where did you come from?" Zhao Fu naturally would not say that he came from the outside world, and he instead acted as if he had a headache as he said, "I don't know. I don't remember anything." Dao Lu knew that Zhao Fu was putting on an act, but she did not expose him. Saber Master smiled as she said, "It's fine if you don't remember clearly. You can stay here in the future, and we'll take good care of you." Zhao Fu said, "Thank you, Chief." A beautiful woman with a graceful figure called Auntie Dao smiled as she said, "Chief, I've always dreamed of having a chubby boy. Even in my dreams, I want to have a white and chubby boy. Can I borrow him for a day?" Another mature woman called Dao Mei smiled as she said, "I also want to borrow him for a day." The women all spoke, wanting to bring Zhao Fu back. Saber Master smiled as she said, "I know how important this matter is, but calm down and don't scare him." Hearing this, the women all fell silent. Saber Master looked at Zhao Fu and smiled as she said, "Come with me." Zhao Fu nodded. The group entered the stronghold. The stronghold looked quite big, and there were many houses made of stone. Because there were not many people here, it looked quite empty and desolate. Perhaps in a few hundred years, the Saber Shark clan would go extinct here. Zhao Fu looked around to see if there was any information about the octagonal water world. Saber Master brought Zhao Fu to a large hall and had everyone else leave, leaving only her and Zhao Fu. "Do you understand the heavy responsibility on your shoulders?" Saber Master looked at Zhao Fu seriously as she asked. Zhao Fu nodded as he said, "I will do my best to help everyone breed." Saber Master nodded and gave a trace of a smile as she said, "You're very smart. Our clan can only rely on you, or else we'll all go extinct. In the future, you'll have to work hard, but I won't be lacking in benefits. I can also promise that I can help you become the next chief." Zhao Fu said gratefully, "Thank you, Chief." Saber Master lightly smiled and hugged Zhao Fu with both hands. A few hours later, Zhao Fu hugged Saber Master as he sat on a chair and smiled as he asked, "Chief, I have some questions." Saber Master nestled in Zhao Fu's embrace with a satisfied smile on her face as she said, "Speak. What is it?" Zhao Fu said, "I don't know why, but a blue octagonal crystal keeps appearing in my mind. What is it?" Saber Master lightly smiled as she said, "That's our clan's sacred object, called the Sacred Saber Crystal. The reason why our clan can have what it is today is all thanks to it." Zhao Fu secretly rejoiced, as there was indeed the octagonal water world here. He continued to ask, "Where is it?" Saber Master smiled as she said, "In the Sacred Mountain. Why?" Zhao Fu shook his head and said, "It's nothing, I'm just a little curious." Saber Master hugged Zhao Fu as she smiled and said, "Perform well in the future. I'll bring you over to have a look. If you want to enter the Sacred Mountain, you'll need the 3 chief to personally open the sacred gate." Zhao Fu asked in surprise, "There are other saber sharks?" Chapter 3256. Book 1, Chapter 200. Secret Saber Master said, "We're not from the other Saber Shark clan. We're from the same clan, but we're divided into different factions. We originally had many factions, but now there are only 3 of us left. You have to take on the responsibility of reproducing our clan." Zhao Fu was not from the Saber Shark clan. He had merely become one. Moreover, even if he was, with Zhao Fu's bloodline, he would not be able to give birth to children. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I understand." Saber Master smiled as she said, "Show yourself and walk around first. Familiarize yourself with our stronghold. I want to rest for a while." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. After leaving the room, Zhao Fu wanted to find out more information. At that moment, Dao Mei appeared and gave a flirtatious smile as she pulled Zhao Fu to a corner. Zhao Fu looked at Dao Mei and asked, "Do you know about the holy relic?" Dao Mei looked at Zhao Fu and said flirtatiously, "Why are you asking?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I just heard the chief mention it, and I want to ask." Dao Mei smiled as she said, "I can tell you that we were originally saber sharks that lived at the bottom of the sea, but under the influence of the holy relic, we gradually gained human form and became a type of water clan. However, there are 2 layers of barriers in the water, and even though they block out the dangers from the outside, they also prevent us from leaving." Zhao Fu now understood why the saber shark clan had been born. No wonder they looked so similar to saber sharks. They were actually saber sharks. Zhao Fu continued to ask, "I heard that the holy relic is on the holy mountain and requires 3 chief to open the holy gate to go there." Dao Mei smiled as she said, "That's right, but the relationship between the 3 chief is quite bad. Shock fought over a little boy, and that boy was our last hope. It's a pity that he died not long after. Luckily, you appeared." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Do you like me?" Dao Mei smiled as she said, "Of course I like you. I want to have a bunch of children with you." An hour later, Zhao Fu walked out from the corner. He was thinking about how he could obtain the omniscient water world. Dao Mei walked out with a flushed face. Zhao Fu came to a well, and Auntie Dao appeared and hugged Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu also asked her about the relic. Aunt Dao rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. "Brat, let's talk later. Business is more important." Zhao Fu chuckled. Soon after, he found out some information about the holy relic. In order to prevent it from being controlled by others, it had always been stored on the Saint Mountain. Therefore, the 8-directional water world had never been controlled by the Sharkblade clan. However, the water world of the 8 directions was in their hands, and they needed to be acknowledged before they could use the power of the water world of the 8 directions, and they also had a glimmer of hope to escape from this place. Auntie Dao leaned against the well and said with a satisfied smile, "I really like you." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I have something to do, so I'll leave first." Auntie Dao smiled and nodded. Following this, Zhao Fu was pulled over by the other women. Under trees, by the roadside, on bridges and houses, and in open spaces, he helped them reproduce. This continued for a few days. Zhao Fu looked at Dao Lu in his arms and smiled as he said, "I thought you didn't like this? You even said that if I did anything to you, your entire clan would kill me. What happened now?" Dao Lu lightly harumphed. "Who knew that you had such an ability?" At that moment, Dao Lu looked at Zhao Fu and asked, "Did you really become a member of the Sharkblade clan? You're not faking it, right?" Zhao Fu nodded. "Now, I'm no different from your Sharkblade clan." Dao Lu revealed a trace of smile. "Then we might be able to conceive your child. Now, I can rest assured." Zhao Fu looked at her and smiled as he said, "Do you want it too?" Dao Lu blushed and nodded. Suddenly, a tall, gray-haired woman appeared and stared at Zhao Fu as she smiled and said, "I never thought that a man would really appear." Zhao Fu looked at this woman and understood that she was from another faction. Dao Lu blushed and said softly, "She's called Dao Chan, and she's the clan leader of another faction. Her strength is about the same as our clan leaders." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Greetings, clan leader." Dao Chan smiled and said, "No need to be so polite. Come over and let me see how capable you are." Zhao Fu walked in front of Dao Chan. Dao Lu looked at the intense scene in front of her and blushed. She quietly left and planned to tell this news to Saber Master. After hearing the news, Saber Master quickly rushed over. Right now, Zhao Fu was the most important person for their clan, and she did not want anything to happen to Zhao Fu. Looking at Dao Chan on Zhao Fu's body, Saber Master forcefully slapped out with her palm, drawing a wave of heaven and earth power towards Dao Chan. Dao Chan looked at Saber Master and also slapped out with her palm. Boom! A loud explosion rang out as the 2 palm energies collided and then dissipated. Saber Master coldly harumphed. "He's one of us now." Dao Chan continued on Zhao Fu's body and coldly laughed as she said, "So what? Back then, you stole our clan's only surviving boy and caused him to die so quickly. I still haven't settled this with you. Saber Master coldly said, This has nothing to do with me. It's your clan that's useless. I'll say it again. Leave immediately. Dao Chan coldly looked at Saber Master and said, Do you think I'm afraid of you? Saber Master grabbed out with her hand, and a saber appeared. A biting cold aura spread out as she coldly said, Then I can only do this. Dao Chan hugged Zhao Fu with both hands and gave a provocative smile as she said, You can try. Aren't you afraid of injuring him? Saber Master was also afraid of injuring Zhao Fu and looked at Dao Chan angrily. Zhao Fu said righteously, Our clan only has a few people left. Why are we still fighting? We should be united to get through this crisis. If the three of them did not get along well, Zhao Fu would not be able to enter the Holy Mountain and obtain the omniscient water world. Hearing this, Saber Master and Dao Chan looked at Zhao Fu. Saber Master said, I don't want to either. As long as she lets you go, I won't bother with her. Dao Chan smiled and said, I've already tried. How can a treasure like you fall into the hands of her clan? I must have you. Saber Master coldly said, There's nothing to say. If you have the ability, come and fight. Zhao Fu said, Why do you want to monopolize me? I can share my love with everyone and create a peaceful future together. Isn't that good? Saber Master looked at Zhao Fu and thought about how powerful Zhao Fu had become over the past few days. She lightly harumphed. Aren't you afraid of dying of exhaustion? Zhao Fu smiled and said, I won't be afraid even if it's 10 times worse. Dao Chan said in surprise, You're that powerful? Zhao Fu smiled and said, Are you doubting my ability? Dao Chan happily smiled and said, No, the more powerful I am, the more I like it. Our clan's reproduction depends on you. Saber Master said, What do you think we should do now? Zhao Fu smiled and said, I can stay with your clan for a few days, and there's for a few days. How about this? Very fair. Chapter 32:57. Book 1, Chapter 2:01. Saber Master said, I have no objections. Saber Cicada smiled and said, I have no objections either. This is indeed very fair. Saber Cicada then looked at Saber Master and said, Can you leave now? Can't you see what I'm doing with my little man? Saber Master coldly harumphed and tore off the water grass on her body. I didn't say I would give it to you now. The two clan leaders once again began to compete, but in a different way, and the process was also very intense. A few hours later, Zhao Fu hugged the two clan leaders and smiled as he asked, Have your relationship improved? Saber Master glanced at Saber Cicada. Not bad. Not as annoying as before. Saber Cicada lightly laughed. You're also much more pleasing to the eye. Saber Master suddenly looked at Zhao Fu. I feel that you don't want to lose your memory. And you're not simple, right? Saber Cicada was surprised. What? Saber Master said, Haven't you noticed? Our bodies have changed. Saber Cicada sensed the changes within her body and revealed a shocked expression. How is this possible? My physique and strength have increased by so much. Saber Cicada quickly reacted and looked at Zhao Fu. It's because of you? Zhao Fu smiled and said, Yes, no matter who it is, they will benefit. And you won't be surprised. Saber Master asked, Then who are you? I've never heard of someone like you in our clan. Zhao Fu smiled and said, I don't remember. Seeing Zhao Fu completely lie, Saber Master was somewhat angry and lightly harumphed, but she could not do anything to Zhao Fu. After all, they not only relied on Zhao Fu to reproduce, but they could also increase their strength and cultivation. Saber Cicada smiled and said, I feel that he is a treasure bestowed to us by the heavens. Perhaps our clan really can be saved. Saber Master did not say anything, but Zhao Fu's appearance had indeed brought them many benefits and made their boring lives happy. Saber Master lightly harumphed. Go to their clan for 3 days. I'll come and pick you up after that. Saber Cicada smiled and said, Thanks. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Following this, Cicada brought Zhao Fu to their faction. It was a small town on flat ground, and it could have housed tens of thousands of people. However, it was now quite empty. When the women heard that Dao Cicada had brought a man back, they all happily came to the central plaza. There were roughly 400 or so of them, and they all stared at Zhao Fu, looking excited and moved. It had been 200 years since they had seen a man. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Is he really a man? Ha! I've almost forgotten what man looks like. Today, I finally remember. If it weren't for the fact that men had gone extinct a long time ago, how could there still be men? I heard that the chief brought it back from the mountain village. It should have been discovered by the people in the mountain village. I heard that they enjoyed it for a few days. Maybe some of them are already pregnant. I also want to get pregnant and give birth to children. I really envy those people in the past. Yes, the most important thing right now is the reproduction of our race. I also want to do my part for our race. Otherwise, our race will perish. Dao Cicada looked around and gestured for everyone to be quiet as he smiled and said, "This is someone I borrowed from the mountain village. He can only stay in our town for 3 days. In the future, we'll share with the mountain village and improve our relationship with them." A woman with a graceful figure called Dao Linlin smiled as she said, "No problem. Chief, how did the people in the mountain village obtain him? Are there other men?" Dao Cicada smiled as he replied, "No, it's just him. However, his abilities will make you all go crazy." A well-built and beautiful woman excitedly smiled as she said, "Really?" Dao Cicada smiled as he said, "This chief has personally tried it, and of course it's true. There are many who have come back alive, and it's even more effective than eating medicinal pills." A short-haired and valiant-looking woman called Dao Thin said happily, "How could the people in the mountain village be willing to lend such a treasure to us, Chief?" Dao Cicada smiled as he said, "We're all from the saber shark race, and we need to develop together. Otherwise, we'll decline, understand?" The women all nodded. A woman with an alluring figure looked at Zhao Fu and said, "But how are we going to line up for 3 days?" Dao Cicada smiled as he said, "You can all come together. This boy says he's very powerful." Hearing this, the women did not hold back and swarmed up. 3 days later, Zhao Fu hugged Dao Cicada and smiled as he said, "Now you know how powerful I am, right?" Dao Cicada smiled as he said, I feel that you're quite perverted. I feel like you're a little abnormal. How could you have such an ability?" Zhao Fu gave a slight smile. Dao Cicada smiled as he said, "After this, many of our people will become pregnant, right?" Zhao Fu knew that none of them would be able to do so. As such, he did not say anything. Dao Thin smiled as she said, "It's all right if you can't get pregnant this time. We'll have many more opportunities." A beautiful woman said reluctantly, "It's a pity that you can only stay with us for 3 days. I wish you could stay with us forever." At that moment, a sweet-tempered woman wearing a long dress appeared in the sky. Looking at the women walking towards them, she felt quite surprised. Dao Cicada looked at this woman and gave a trace of smile as he said, "You're here too." The sweet-tempered woman nodded. She was called Dao Wei, and she was the clan leader of another clan. Out of everyone present, only she was wearing clothes made of cloth. The other women were wearing clothes made of coral, aquatic plants, and some fish skins. Dao Wei looked at Zhao Fu and asked, "Is he that man?" Dao Cicada gave a trace of a mischievous smile as he said, You can give it a try. You definitely won't be disappointed." Dao Wei's face became red as she said, "I'm going to take him back." Dao Cicada said, "You should have told Saber Master, right?" Dao Wei nodded. "I'll go to the stronghold first. Saber Master told me to come back in 3 days." Dao Cicada said, "All right, you can take him back." Zhao Fu flew into the sky and smiled as he said, "Clan leader." Dao Wei looked at Zhao Fu and said with a slightly red face, "Put your clothes on the bed first." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "There's no need to go through so much trouble." Zhao Fu went up and hugged Dao Wei as he flew to the side. Dao Wei's face was red as she looked at Zhao Fu and did not struggle. It was quite difficult to imagine that she was a higher being. They came to an empty space, and the two of them tangled together. After waiting for a few hours, Zhao Fu arrived at Dao Wei's faction. It was also a town, but the buildings were quite different. They were built with stone bricks and were quite intricate, and they were quite different from the previous two factions' primitive style. This faction had the least people, only 200 or so people. They all wore clothes made of cloth and gathered at the public square, making it seem quite cold and cheerless. By now, Zhao Fu had already put on his clothes, and Dao Wei, who was by his side, looked quite happy, giving off a completely different feeling. At that moment, they did not pay any attention to their chief, and instead looked at Zhao Fu with bright eyes. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.